This will be episode 55.
Wow.
Yeah, a Badass Records podcast, which is, in a nutshell, a way to get you to talk about yourself. And we throw in some of your favorite records along the way. It's a fun time because so we're taping 55 today, but only 50 are out. So 50 came out Thursday, which was a fun nerd, nice round numbers, like milestone-y kind of whatever. And then next week's is my ex-sister-in-law, which was fun to do.
Eva?
Oh. Yeah. And then after that's 52. So like at the episode a week click, it's like the year anniversary sort of.
Cool.
But also the merch line is up and out, and so you can get your coffee mugs and t-shirts.
Very official.
Yeah. It's fun stuff. I have, watching, in addition to reaction videos, watching mostly like stand-up comic based podcasts. Mm-hmm. One in particular like got to a point where, of course they're doing it's like they have their career and the podcast is an afterthought.
Like a supplementary.
Yeah. But, I think initially, depending on what your professional and financial situation are, there's this deal where it's like, how much of it are you doing versus the person that has people doing every single part except for the actual episode, right? Like people cutting and producing and running errands and making sure you're fed. And when you have to do all of it, it's just like, oh my God.
It's a lot more.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I hit a good stride trying to go through and make TikToks of all the past episodes. I had a good, and then the holidays kind of killed that. So I've been I need to get back on that, but it's also like the recording and the production of it and the scheduling interviews. I mean, it's like there's never just a cruising.
Right. You need like a social media director. Mm-hmm. Maybe Adeline could do that.
And she filmed the intro video.
Did she?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really cute because, she's always been a small person, but I wanted her, what I said was, I want you to get a shot of the Mahomes Super Bowl Sports Illustrated cover. Mm-hmm. And then right next to that is the Sports Illustrated cover of Alex Petrangelo hoisting the Stanley Cup when the Blues won. Oh. And then I want you to go downstairs and like she drew like her own little kid sort of version of the logo, and then get to that, and then opening the door, and that's the intro. But do it like stay at each thing a long time, and then make it time lapse.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's
yeah.
And so the part where she's done looking at the two things and goes to go down the stairs, she's whatever 10 11 when and so she's still to this day, and she makes lots of TikToks. Mm-hmm. She has no there's no awareness of like, you need to balance out the fact that you're holding the device that's recording, and maybe you're looking at it on your own, or maybe you're looking at it through the thing, but your movement completely dictates the vibe of the final thing.
Sure.
So if it's, can't watch. So she's hustling down the stairs, and she's got these little crew pink socks on. So you just see pink socks. Yeah.
That's cute.
She sees it and she cringes. Oh, it's so bad, and I shouldn't have worn those socks. I'm like, it's my favorite part of the whole thing. Like, come on.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. But, so Leah Twibell, you say
Twibell.
What does Keeg say? Emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah.
So the second syllable gets the
Twibell.
Okay. And how many nicknames would you say you have?
From your family? Several. You call me Twibes Called Quest.
No S. Just Twibe.
Okay.
I got representing behind on the desk over there today I usually put up a different record, but I had to throw up the Twibe record for you.
Tiff calls me Twibs.
I know and I've never been able to just be at peace with the shift in the I.
Yeah.
There.
A friend of ours is like, I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
It makes me think of either Twigs or like Nibs. You remember Nibs?
Yeah.
I'm not a licorice person.
Yeah. I guess Megan doesn't really have.
No, just Leah.
Yeah. When I think about it.
And in your family?
In my family, my mom calls me Red, which isn't really like fitting anymore because I feel like my hair's not that red, but growing up, it was. So that is what she calls me. For a long time, I'm like the oldest of 5 children.
Yeah.
So a lot of my little siblings who are not little anymore, but
Right.
they would call me Weeah. So like my stepdad still calls me Weeah.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your dad still around?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he calls me like the usual dad nicknames for a daughter, like sweet pie, stuff like that. Still.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you, like I mentioned when we were initially texting, you're the final leg of the Iron Triangle in that I've had a friend of each sibling do an episode. So
Oh, yeah?
Strobel did one.
Oh, yeah, he would be a good one.
He was good.
Yeah.
And Bryce did one. And
he would be entertaining as well.
Yes, yeah. He was a multi-reschedule and then brought his child. I was like, oh, okay. No, it was fun. But point being, we know each other through Megan.
Correct.
And so you're born here, right?
Correct.
And then did you like pre-K, like ECLC all the way through 8th?
No, so fun fact, I didn't go to kindergarten.
At all?
No.
How did that happen?
I'm somehow, a functioning
You
human.
put all the blocks in the right slots, and they're
Right.
like, first grade, ma'am.
Somehow figured out gluing and cutting. It was like...
Was that intentional?
I think it was maybe more circumstantial with my parents' divorce. I'm not really sure exactly, other than, kindergarten is not a required program. You don't have to legally attend kindergarten.
Have you met other people that didn't go to kindergarten?
We've had a couple at the school where I work.
Okay.
But no, not a ton. I mean, I did go to like a daycare, so like I was
Sure.
around other kids and that kind of stuff, but I did not go to kindergarten. So my first school experience was first grade at St. Peter's.
No ECLC or any of that stuff either.
No.
Were you were just at home until first grade?
I was at daycare.
Or daycare,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Both my parents were working and single.
How old were you when they split?
3.
Okay.
I was 3.
Dang. So you got
I guess I shouldn't say they were single, but they were not remarried yet, and so I think they
Right.
were just still like
so you got
navigating life.
0 memories of them under the same roof?
Like 2 or 3.
And are they real or because you've seen pictures?
I think they have to be real,
Right.
Because they're not great memories. They're not ones that were of pictures, so I think they're real.
Right. So then, I mean, like age-wise, and when you arrived at first grade, were you on the same? I mean, did they put you where you were supposed to be? Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I met your sister.
Okay.
Megan was seated across from me in our first grade homeroom.
Okay. And
I don't know why, because I'm pretty shy, quiet person, but whatever, something compelled me because I had like all these Lisa Frank, like really cool, amazing folders. You're looking at me like you don't know who Lisa Frank is.
I don't.
Because you're a boy. They were like these really bright, colorful, like unicorns and rainbows, like very trendy at the time. And your sister had just like these plain, like solid color ones that were like, to me, looked like they were made out of construction paper.
did you find those in the hall right before school started?
Right. No, so I asked her, I was like, did you make those? And I wasn't trying to be a jerk.
Right.
Like, I was like, she must have
Right.
made them. Like, they don't have any unicorns on them.
And
And she was like, no,
Oh.
did you make yours? And I was like, no.
just sass right out of the gate.
Obviously not.
Wow.
And then it just took off from there.
Okay. So, I mean, it's weird right now. Like, I feel like we stepped into with, 12 and 9, we sort of stepped into the play date vortex, and like didn't even know we were in it until it sort of takes over
with your kiddos.
Yeah. And then like we just heard from one of Adeline's friends' moms a couple weeks ago, like that their daughter had been like, don't call it that anymore. Like
a play date?
Yeah. Like we hang, we get to whatever.
It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, it's, yes. I
not
mean,
cool.
No.
Right.
But when did you guys become more than just like homeroom or classroom buddies?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like, so second grade, she wrote a letter to her previous best friend and said that I was her new best friend.
Seriously?
Yeah. And
was the previous still at the school? Okay.
And she got very upset by it. So Megan got in trouble, but I think she was just trying to, be honest.
Is she there's a rule right now.
Is there?
No best friends.
Oh.
Is Megan the reason? Was this like 80?
So this would have been like
87.
Yeah, 88 or 89. So we were definitely, like, as I remember it, we were good friends. I remember first grade at recess, we didn't quite hit it off because Megan and a couple of the other girls had a boyfriend club.
Oh.
And I wasn't into the
boyfriend
guy.
Club.
Yeah, I was more into kickball.
Yeah.
So we
Slow
didn't
and
play
bouncy.
at recess. Yeah. Baby bouncy.
Yeah. Nice.
Goes ton first. So anyway, I don't know how, I think my mom and Elaine take a lot of credit for our friendship.
Rightfully so.
Because they, yeah, in a way, because Elaine could have been like, that is not a geographically desirable friend with me living in Grandview.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom drove us in from Grandview.
And then for games and practices and shit too?
So I didn't get to play sports until 6th grade.
Okay. What changed?
That was the we're kind of getting on a tangent, but my dad was a pretty good athlete.
Okay.
He played sports all the time.
Remind me his first name.
Bob.
Okay. That was Gary or Bob. I don't know why those two.
Bob.
Barbershop days, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he went on scholarship to University of Arizona and played, I believe, football and maybe baseball. I'd have to check with him. But he always said that he got really burnt out on sports and he quit while he was in college. And so he didn't want that to happen with John and I. So
okay. And those are just you two are the samesies on both parents.
Me and John, we're about, I think we're 17 months apart.
And are you older?
I'm older.
Okay.
I look younger, but I'm older.
I haven't seen him in forever. What's the?
And it's mostly just because he's losing his hair.
I figured it's either that or gray, right?
Yeah.
But so he didn't want you. So he delayed your entry into sports for that reason.
So he did, and then I think it was also convenient for them to not have to drive us back and forth with practice and stuff like that, with us living so far away.
So 6th grade, you're still in Grandview.
I was, yes.
Okay.
We didn't move to like the Brookside area until I was done with 8th grade. So I spent all of my grade school in Grandview.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's something.
It is.
You go out there. Have you been out there recently?
No, there's not a lot going on out there.
They did just, and this is, I think, a good barometer for what's happening in Grandview, but they just put, it was a big, long project, a roundabout on the, so where Main and 71 intersect. So you go, if you're heading east, so you've already crossed southbound.
Okay.
71. So right in where northbound, that's where the roundabout is.
Okay.
And so it kind of helps you either get on northbound or go into that IHOP run shopping strip, whatever. I mean, I think maybe a lot of the problem was just the traffic and the lights, but
100%, like the Grandview Triangle. That was something that,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that was my mom. That's another thing. Like when she first started driving us in, they hadn't expanded 71 all the way yet. So we would have to get off and like wind through like over to Troost over at like 77th, I want to say. And then take that all the way to St.
I remember like coming back to the area in 2000 and working with my dad, and it was like the whole chunk of it that's now Bruce R. Watkins Drive was like, the paint was still drying on it.
Just
but he was
stopped
thrilled because it's really the only to get north and south somewhat quickly, and it's bananas. I mean, I've come somewhere in the 75th to 63rd window. There's a hill. I've come over the hill before, and I could see that like there's a whole mess of like confusing congestion happening on the southbound side. And then when now everything's in my view, like 7 cop cars across the highway behind their doors, all with guns drawn. I've seen, not that it's too terribly unique from other highways, but a lot of people that are just reckless, and I've actually had an Uber driver take me to a show, and I don't remember, he probably got on Rock Hill or something, but I was like running late, and I was like, I need to like shower and call an Uber 15 minutes ago. So when he didn't take 71, I was like, and he's ignoring whatever the maps, and he's like, yeah, I don't drive on that highway. Too many people just are, will take their lives and everybody else's lives, for granted. And I'm like,
yeah, I feel very fortunate that I do not have to drive on the highway to get to my work. That's not part of my daily routine. But yeah, that's it. So picture doing that with 5 children.
And no thorough straight shot.
Correct. In a giant blue Chevy station
wagon. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's weird talking about this. I think it's just now occurring to me that no, I take that back, because working with my dad, I think we exterminated your mom and stepdads once or twice.
You probably did.
But then I remember, I feel like I can picture
in Brookside, or the one out south.
Brookside. I mean, it was not small.
No, that's Brookside. Yeah.
And I like a lot of wood, like brown
in the kitchen, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have this picture, or this image of a PV house over by St. Anne's that I think was your dad's.
Yeah, so
like
that's
reddish
accurate.
or maroonish.
Yep. That was one of his. Between my mom and my dad, I feel like I've lived in several suburbs of Kansas City. So my dad did live in Prairie Village for a while on 74th.
Okay.
And it was one that he bought and then like totally fixed up.
Oh, and
so
then
you're right. It was maroon when he first purchased it.
Okay, and then did he sell it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I've never, and never will really, seen like, the home that you grew up playing in, or?
Correct. Yeah, you probably would not have. I mean, your dad did exterminate out there, but it would have been before you were working for him, I would think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was on the River Oaks golf course. And it was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath split level. And what's funny is we found out that McNary's lived out there at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did they grow up, your folks?
My mom grew up in, her dad was in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
So she grew up everywhere. She was born in Alaska. She lived in New Orleans, Hawaii. The bulk, I would say, or the longest stint she had was when she was in like maybe junior high and high school, and that was all in San Diego.
Oh,
so
wow.
She's
been around.
Yeah. So, and then my dad grew up here.
Okay.
He lived over in, like, I guess it would be considered Mission.
Okay. And how did they meet?
They met in California. My dad lived in San Diego for a little bit, and my mom was a restaurant bar manager, and my dad was a customer and so they just hit it off. And yeah,
She was?
Yeah.
Okay. She probably kept good, tight numbers.
oh for sure.
And
But
then
yeah.
what does at some they meet, and at some point he always thinking he'd wind up back here, or how did that go down?
So I mean, they met, and I believe they were engaged within like 6 months of meeting each other, and then married pretty soon after that.
Okay.
And then somehow my dad, not my dog, my dad talked her into coming to Kansas City, this
Okay.
place she'd never been to
Sure.
before, and very
And-
different from San Diego.
Yeah, and so Grandview, is that where they bought
So,
immediately, or
no, I think initially they rented a house in, is it Westwood?
yeah,
Cute little.
mm-hmm.
And then my dad loves golf, and at the time that subdivision was like new builds, and he thought maybe that was he was like looking at there and looking at Johnson County suburbs, and for some reason he thought that the Grandview one would take off, and
God, it
did not as much.
People, Kansas Cityans have like whiffed countless times on what we think is going to be. I mean, Truman Sports Complex,
Right?
Like, whoops. I'm stoked that it is what it is and has been.
Yeah, it's fun.
But still,
but
it's like why? Like,
why is it so far away?
Did you look at anything around here
Right.
that is Raytown and go, in 20 years, this is, you know? So
Well, yeah, and why not just have it within the city, since it's not the Raytown Royals,
yeah, I know.
you know?
When I learned that the actual physical address was Raytown, I was like, no, it's not. Please don't. Please no. And then I was like, oh, Jesus, it really is.
Yeah.
So they bought what in like the early or mid 80s they bought out there?
So it would have been, I was born, I believe, so probably like 82, 83.
Okay. And then until, what'd you say, 6th or 8th grade?
Yeah, so 96.
Okay. Then it's been hers since.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
he moved
she's,
out, and he lived in, for a long time, and I really actually liked that house. He lived at 95th and Bellevue, like
Okay.
by Rockers High
Yeah.
School.
Yeah.
Lived on a cul-de-sac. So we had fun.
Did you guys
with that.
have 50-50 or how did it?
Yeah, pretty
okay.
close. I always felt like they did a really good job as far as like that goes. Like they were pretty good about not showing us
Right.
any kind of
Yeah.
like disdain for the other, and I was at my dad's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday.
Okay. And then did they stay that way once you guys were grown and gone, though? Because I felt like I've caught a snippet of her, like with a tone, talking about him.
So I mean, they're a little bit more open about things now, which, I guess is fine. But for the most part, they're pretty good. Like, I think, they're able to be in the same place and
Sure.
and be fine.
Yeah. So they had you two, and then both remarried, and
Correct.
both had.
No,
No.
my dad didn't have any more. I've had a couple step siblings through some of his marriages.
Oh, he's been a repeat.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's had a couple. And then my mom had, she married Tom, and they had Andrew, Mary Pat, and Sarah.
Mary Pat.
Mary
Did
Pat.
they think it was the 50s?
I know. Well, so Tom's mom is named Patricia. So I
Okay,
think that's
okay.
where that came in. I don't know.
There
They're
was
just
a
being
big-
good Catholics,
Right. There was a real long, and maybe it's still, but of this just firm, unwavering belief that a first name for a girl can be 2 words, and the first word can be Mary.
Mary, yeah.
And it's like
Mary Beth, Mary Ann,
we have
Mary Kate.
he's got a buddy whose mom is a Mary Elizabeth, and it's like that's too many syllables.
Did she go to St. Peter's?
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember one growing up.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, we have my mom's Mary Fran. There's a Mary Pat on my dad and my dad's aunt or something. Anyway, Mary Jo. I mean, just all over the place.
Lots of Marys.
Yeah. So music wise, out there in Grandview, I guess it would have been. Did did your mom put stuff on? Did you guys put the radio on?
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. Like, I haven't been good about music lately. That's why I was when you said you wanted me as a guest, I was like, I might not be a very good guest.
Dude.
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
And then I do a lot of like sports talk radio. But this was kind of good because I when you asked me to like think of some albums, last night I was like, I'm gonna find my CDs and like listen to the ones that I said.
Oh wow.
So it made me think about music and my family.
Okay.
My mom and my stepdad very into music, and so in Grandview on Friday night, sometimes they would just like put on a CD in the living room, and we would all just kind of like listen, dance around. And I remember that. Like that
Wait,
was
your mom and your stepdad?
Yeah.
Wait, so did your stepdad move into the house that they?
Yeah, so they got married when I believe I was about 6. And then
like, your dad's gone, she stayed, and then
yes, and so Tom moved in.
I wonder how everybody felt about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My dad got remarried shortly after my mom did.
Okay.
And that woman moved into his house.
Sure.
I mean, so
which he never shared with your mom. I mean,
correct. So it's different. Yeah.
Anytime, like whenever, not that it happens often, but if I'm ever showing somebody the house or whatever, and we get to, I guess you're not supposed to say master bedroom anymore.
Oh, what are you supposed to say?
Primary, because master implies slave owner.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go more like gender
no,
stuff with that.
But anyway, there's. I don't know if you've ever been up there, but I think that so it's this large room, and we don't need this portion of this wall that faces 65th Street. So there's a big window seat and 2 closets.
Oh,
And it's great. I mean, it's like perfect. And then on the other side, there's like what was probably the original real closet and has a crawl space to get to the attic. And then there's another like double door open closet. So there's 4 closets. And 2 of them, it's like for a while I had her old dresser, but I brought it down because I needed a room for the puppy's crate to be up there. Back when dogs slept upstairs with me, they don't anymore.
No.
But yeah, it was always like, yes, just move in ready for, 2 closets and a dresser ready to go.
Ready to
like,
go.
No awkwardness there. But anyway, so you had CDs as a young person.
I believe they were CDs. That's what I was trying to remember last night. If they were CDs or if they were cassette tapes.
Well, either way,
but,
that's fun.
They really were into like the Stones and the Doors.
Okay.
And so, and they'd go through phases like the Police. They were really into. I can't think of the album, but the one with Roxanne and all of the ones that everybody knows them for. So they would just put on a CD.
Fun.
Kind of like play in the living room. So we were not allowed to watch TGIF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, professionally, you're not a speech therapist. Is that actually
that's one of the many names that they call us.
So no, not K through 8, 1 through 8, and then STA, and then did you go to Creighton?
No, Marquette.
Marquette, that's right.
I went to Marquette for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year.
Oh, and then KU?
Junior year transferred to KU.
Because?
Like some of it was financial, because
it's a smart kid school.
Yeah,
with a good basketball program.
It did have a good basketball.
Not so much anymore.
I mean, I think they're coming back.
Okay.
And then there's been like moments, but yeah, I was at Marquette. Dwayne Wade was in my class at Marquette.
Old flippy.
No.
Oh, the Miami
player.
Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's that guy's name? From a different world. Dwayne Wayne.
Dwayne, right?
It's something like
I
that.
need to check that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it was also partially because of a guy. So
To switch to KU?
yeah.
Now, where'd you meet this guy and how?
I mean, you know the guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we dated in college. So
Part of the old crew?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, it took me a long time to admit that, but that was a factor. So
like years
in my decision.
after,
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
let's be honest with ourselves.
Right. Right. But KU also has a great speech pathology program.
Okay, so is that what you were studying at Marquette?
It was.
And did you know going out of high school?
No. My first semester at Marquette, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So my advisor was like, well, what are you thinking you might want to do? And so I think it was a she, I can't remember.
Right.
She said...
She might not be anymore. You never know.
Who knows? So she said, why don't you take, like, if you're thinking you might want to do this, then take this class. And so I was kind of thinking engineering might be something I would want to get into.
Sure.
So she was like, well, why don't you take this calculus class? And I was like, okay. Because I'd taken pre-cal at St. Teresa's.
Ugh.
And
now, did you, Megan was going somewhere for math?
I wasn't smart enough to do that.
Okay, so you didn't graduate with 30 credits or whatever it was?
I was smart, but not as smart as your sister.
I think we can all the people that we know collectively can probably be like, me too.
Yeah. I might have had more street smarts than her.
Absolutely. My table wasn't too long. I'd high five you right now.
But so I took the calculus class and actually kind of liked it, but because I was smart, I was used to getting really good grades. And this class, I worked harder than I'd ever had to work in any class in my life.
This is like first foot down the path of the engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would go in with the teacher, do things I'd never really done before, be like, how can I do better? And I ended up at the end of the semester Marquette did weird grades. So I got a C/D, which I had never gotten in my life. And I was
But you had B's?
Yeah, I'd had some B's.
Right.
But
it's a big drop off
never
to take in.
Right.
I
don't think I ever got a C.
Right.
So I was like, this isn't for me. I worked so hard and I'm not going to be able to hack it. And so I went with speech pathology, which is fine. That was fine for me. But I found out later that half the class flunked.
Oh, wow.
So I actually got an okay
Set the
grade.
curve. I'm an A.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
Right?
Wow.
And it would just, so many things I think about now as somebody who works in education, so many things can impact a person or child's decisions in life. Because I also remember my roommate had a different calc teacher and she got an A, no problem. But I was having to explain stuff to her and how to do it. So sometimes it's one of those sliding doors moments. What if I had had a different calculus teacher? Maybe I would have stuck with engineering.
Yeah.
But everything happens for a reason. So.
Yeah. So much math stuff. I can't remember what is freshman year, but sophomore year was geometry. And then junior year was
trig for me.
Anyway, point being was basically freshman year on, it's weird. I maybe had a lantern the whole time that was just 98% of the wick is wet, and so it's only just a little. But it's when I arrived at those freshman, sophomore year science and math classes, science and math are not for me.
Yeah.
Writing and that
was more your wheelhouse.
Yeah. And it really, sophomore year, it's funny this summer where there's bubbling talks of 30-year reunion.
Oh.
And there's a girl in there who is, it's our class Facebook group,
Okay.
And like I see her, like she friend requested me before this planning thing even started, and I was like, I don't know who that person is at all. The only
Well,
way
how many people were in your graduating class?
408, 413,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. But
So we had like
I was
90.
like, the only way I know this person is if it's the person that sat next to me for algebra, like all,
Oh.
and now they have a different name.
Oh, the person does?
Yes,
Because
and
they're, okay.
no,
Because they're married or something.
no,
Oh,
nope,
okay.
just
a different name.
yep.
Okay.
And so for like month, maybe even the better part of a year, and they post a lot, so it's like I'll see it, and I've still a couple times I've tried to like go down the rabbit hole and like find the answer, and but so like this lady, Bobby Leonard, she was super sweet, probably still is super sweet, older-ish black gal that
Okay.
had like I don't know what the wet, if that's Jerry curl, but I mean she had short,
Okay.
very curly hair, but it was always like wet
Like
with
gel.
like white
Yeah.
stuff. Like I just wanted to like rub it in, right, so that it doesn't
This
look.
is a teacher or a
Yes,
classmate?
teaching
Okay, teacher.
algebra,
Okay.
and this girl like I don't know that we moved. A lot of classes you move quarterly or whatever seats.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this was she was like not a very feminine haircut.
Okay.
And then like clothes wise, it's like all of these Seattle grunge musicians came
Yeah.
to town and saw the way she dressed, and like that's gonna be so black jeans and a flannel and a band T-shirt underneath, and she liked me. And so there was, and she was like really big into, I'm music wise, I'm like, I've sort of come out of the earth, and I'm like, I will be the barometer for what's cool and good, and
Sure.
everybody else get in line.
Yeah.
And she was really big into erasure, and I was like, absolutely not.
I
That
don't
is,
know who that
yeah,
is.
it's not worth. But and a couple, like maybe twice, I think she asked me out, and I was like, no, I'm like tens only over here,
Oh.
that are future
you.
SI cover, just
High school boy.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're a chunk of the way into this initial planning phase, and she's says something the other day about here's how I can help, and a couple different posts. I'm like, will you fucking say who you are? And finally she goes, by the way, in case you don't know, I used to be so and so back. And I was like,
And you're like, no, that makes sense.
no, that's what I've thought all
Yeah,
along.
yeah.
But it's like, I'm not just going to be like, what happened?
Right.
So that was, I'm just, whatever, a teenage freshman boy with all the million different things. And she, Bobby Leonard, great teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but you can only, like, I don't, if you got like 6 pages to get through for the day's in-class lesson, and then 2 pages of homework that are related to those, and it's a 45, 55-minute class, whatever it is, like you can only, I don't understand, so many times before, she would say, okay, now's when you have to start coming in, before school starts, or stay after for 15, 20, 30, whatever, because I have to keep moving forward.
Yeah,
and it's like, you experience that once or twice, and then it just becomes hot face. As soon as they hit a topic, you're like, whoa, I was following you on ABC, and now all of a sudden you're talking DEF, and it's fucking me up. Like, what? So, I think that was freshman year, but then geometry was like, I copied.
I didn't love geometry either. I liked all my other math classes at St. Teresa's, and I really give St. Teresa's credit for like flipping that, because I didn't always love math growing up, but I did really start to like it. But geometry wasn't my
See,
jam.
I thought I was like shapes, yes,
Yeah,
and then still just that I don't, and so I would copy a lot, and then algebra 2 for junior year. Now
I
I'm like,
loved algebra 2.
I'm like, we're I could go because of some older friends. I could go out to lunch as a freshman. Mm-hmm. Very few did.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you could leave the building?
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
As a freshman.
Yes. And then
I don't think that's allowed
sophomore
anymore.
year, well, there's so many things about my chunk there that we just barely got grandfathered in, or they were immediately after. I was talking the other day, like when we the couple episodes, the episode that dropped this week is my web design gal, and she's engaged, and they're getting married in May, and it's like most of the planning's done, but just so like talking about going through that process and how we picked a spot where we wanted to be able to bring our own booze, and they let us. No kegs was the only rule, but
At your reception?
Yes, but by the time our actual date, they had changed the rules. Like, no longer do we allow. We're still doing this for you guys, because we said
right, because that's in the contract.
But it was like, same with like, by the time we're out of school, going out to lunch,
that stuff wasn't.
Those days were numbered quickly. I mean, it was like ball caps and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I could go out because I had friends, and then sophomore year, a lot of people have their license or have cars.
Right.
But by junior year, I mean, we're doing a lot of liquid lunches where we just go to my mom's and drink.
Oh.
And
so you were a cool kid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not.
Megan and I were not.
Right. And this poor teacher, I mean, I was also, like a piece of shit in some walks, like, saying rude things and spitballs. And one time I like basically passed out because we were beer bonging, and then there was a test, and I was like, I don't fucking know. And right, yeah. So by the time that year ended, I was like, I can't do math anymore. And there's like, take this college prep math class. I was like, all right, fine. And it was like tolerable for a minute, and then I was like, oh, I don't have to. Somebody just said do this instead of trig or whatever. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck that. And so I got out of it, and I was like, I am done with math. I know that I'm not gonna. So I get freshman year of school, and they're like, oh no, you gotta. Yeah, there's a math class you got. It was an algebra. It might have been algebra too, because I don't remember what it was. But I was like, no, I can't do that. And they're like, it's
in college.
You won't get. This is at Pitt State.
Yeah.
You won't get a degree.
You have to have like at least one math
something.
class. Yeah.
And it was, and so he was like, I don't know, not a foreign exchange student, but he was an Asian dude.
Like a teacher's assistant.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And he was like, it was like, it's always funny to me. I've like many times, personal and professional settings, known like Asian folks for like years and years and years, and then one day you like get an email from them, and neither of the first and last name match what you've known them by.
What you thought that, yeah.
Because like, my good friend Susan Smith, when I get a text from her Apple thing says Myung Kim.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. One of my favorite colleagues at work, her name's Alice. But the first time I got an email from her name's BQ.
Yeah. Don't they sometimes do that just to make it easier?
I think so.
Because people probably butcher their.
Yeah. So, and her last name, by the way, this gal I work with, her last name is NG.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, so this guy's name is Jeff. And his name wasn't Jeff, but that was
right. That was what he chose to go by.
And he was so freaking sweet. I mean, he was the nicest guy. And I actually was dragging myself out early to be there and stay after a little bit, because I was struggling big time. And we hit finals, and the last question on his final, and I was like, maybe not going to pass. Like, all the signs were pointing to, like, you just bomb after bomb after bomb.
Right.
Like, and so one of the last questions on his final was, write me a clever Christmas carol, like your own version of an already existing one.
Oh, yeah.
So I hammered out like a
You were
couple.
like, this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I hammered out a couple verses of Jingle Bells, and one of the rhyming lines was, "I hope to pass, or I want to pass Jeff's class, hopefully with a C," and he gave me a C that I completely didn't deserve. But I was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." Anyway, how in the world did we wind up?
How do we get it? Because you asked me about Marquette and then speech pathology.
Yes,
And then I
engineer.
went
You're like,
to-
this is not for me, but
Right,
also,
right.
boy.
Yeah.
And then what was your living situation in Lawrence?
My junior year, I lived with a girl that my brother knew, because John was there at KU, and we lived in a house. I want to say the address was 1030 Alabama.
Love it.
Faced the football stadium.
Oh, wow.
If you looked out my living room, you would see like the ticket office.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was where I lived junior year. Senior year, I was like on this thing where I wanted to live by myself. And then my brother was saying the same thing, and my parents were like, no, you guys are going to live together.
Right.
So I had to live with John, which was fine. I mean, he wasn't the worst roommate. But we lived in an apartment that was in the third floor of one of those big houses on Ohio.
Okay. Heck of a street.
Yeah, so we were across from the Hawk, and then my bedroom window faced the Wheel.
Damn.
I was like super excited about. And then once I started living there, and I was like, oh, it's like every night.
It's not just like this when
Right,
I go there once or twice a month.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and I think that house is, I mean, it was on its last legs when we were there. I think somebody like totally redid it. But
so you get out of there when?
So I got out of there in 2004.
With the BS? Or what'd you have?
BA.
Okay.
And then I went to KU for my master's.
Okay.
But they have a inter-campus program. That's their cute way of saying that you have to drive a lot. Like it's in Kansas City at the Med Center and in Lawrence. So I lived in Kansas City during grad school.
Okay.
Because it was...
So what's the thing that's out at like 120th and Quivira?
The Edwards campus?
Yes.
So that wasn't a thing.
Okay.
Bless you. That wasn't a thing when I was... I don't think so. Or it might have been a new thing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But so my first year in grad school, I lived with my mom, and that was tough because like there were still like kids at home, and like I'd try to be studying, and they would be practicing their piano or like like various instruments that my siblings played, and it was just like a lot going on. Also had a boyfriend at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Again, one of the ones that you know.
Oh, both of them?
This was the...
Yeah,
anyway, so I would want to go stay at his place.
Are they still buddies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would want to go stay at his place, and my mom at the time, which is ridiculous now that I think about it, but because I was like 24, and she was like, you are not setting a good example for your siblings. So I was like, okay, then I'm going to move out.
I'm not here. That's not what I'm here for, lady.
Right. So I moved another girl in grad school, and I moved into a house in Prairie Village.
Okay.
So
master's in...
It's in communication science disorders is what it's called.
Okay.
So it's like a specific program for speech pathology.
What was the moth to the light? Like
so St. Teresa's makes you do a service project.
Yep.
And I did mine at Children's TLC, which is no longer in existence, but it's now called Ability KC. It's at 31st and Main. And I did it there. One of my good friends' moms was a speech pathologist there. I don't know if you met Sasha Nana. But her mom, Marcia, was a speech pathologist there, and I volunteered.
Marcia had a daughter and named her Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I just really enjoyed volunteering there and working with kids, specifically with autism. And so that kind of helped me get on that track of like, maybe I'd want to do this. Because before then, I don't think I really even knew what a speech pathologist was. So
You've done a couple little like things with Molly, right?
Yeah, Molly is a very advanced student.
Okay.
Molly, I tried to administer like some tests with her, and there's like with these evaluations, there's like a script, and you have to go through
Right.
certain things. And so, like, this is just like pictures, and you try to get the kid to say the word, and you analyze which sounds they're making correctly and incorrectly. And Molly, the first word on the test is house. So I'm like, Molly, what's this? House. And then, you point to different, what is this? Door, window. And we got to the second picture, which I think is a pig. And she was just like, where? I don't need to work on these sounds. I need to work on sounds like in Waiwa.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
That is so
like,
awesome.
I've never had a kid, especially since she was only like 4
right.
at the time, like be that aware. And like totally, I didn't say necessarily that was what I was looking for, but she knew exactly what I was trying to test her on.
So kids all the time?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do preschool through 6th grade now.
Okay. And is it, what are like some of the causes or reasons that they wind up in your...
like pretty big variety. Some of the kids, it's like what people more traditionally think I do, like which is the speech sounds and fixing kids who can't say their R's or their S's correctly.
People think you do that. I think you do that.
I do that.
Okay.
That's what that is, I think, what most people associate it with, the profession with, but also kids who have language delays. So the kids who are not talking as much, or kids who have, like difficulty constructing grammatically correct sentences, or it's like a whole gamut. We can work on social language skills, voice disorders, stuttering, or fluent, we call it fluency. So like there's a pretty big variety of things that I might be
Any of them have like developmental disability?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some do, some don't. Like I said, I have kids like Molly, and then I have kids that have maybe other diagnoses.
Sure.
So
Okay.
it does keep things kind of interesting because it's different.
You love it? Absolutely, or?
I love working with the children. Okay. I love, I think communication is fascinating, and language development, all that is. It's just like any other job.
Sure.
Like sometimes there's things that are not as ideal.
Right.
But it's been a lot better, at least for me this year. I mean, being a speech pathologist in the pandemic was difficult with
I can imagine.
Like trying to teach kids without being able to see their mouths and stuff. So masks were great. Like I understood why we had them.
Yes.
It was like a very difficult, challenging time for me. And it was like as soon as they could not wear them anymore, I was like, now we are getting it somewhere. Yeah.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Mm-hmm.
So you're an 82 baby?
I am.
So last Saturday, I'm still sort of relishing. It was a 2-nap Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Thank you. They left at like 1:30 usual time, somewhere around there. And I was like, I just need to be horizontal. I was just on fumes just for a little bit because we had a 3:30 kick. Yeah. So I napped until like 3:05, 3:10, and then kind of just real quick got, shook the cobwebs off. And then when our game was over, I was like, now it's like, now it's dark.
Go back to sleep.
I'm going to put the other game on with the volume, and I mean, like I woke up to my phone buzzing and it was like 8:45. And there was a small group of St. Peter's dads that were like, beers, hoopers, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it'll be fun. So I go up there and there's a couple, 1 or 2 folks from the thread are sitting with Joe and Beth Growney.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And she, for the first time, it was, we talked a lot. I've definitely felt like,
Their kids go to St. Peter's?
yeah, they're a little older. But in fact, one time I swore like I said something about Megan in their presence, and it was kind of like,
Oh, really?
like nobody said it, but I just got this vibe like, don't do that again. So anyway, so we're sitting there talking, blah blah blah, and they're tabbing out. Their evening has been going for a little bit, and out of nowhere he goes, so we were blah 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 this summer traveling, and I guess crossed paths, and I was like, I was supposed to be there. I mean, but
Yeah.
I have a voucher now.
Right.
I just got to figure out someplace to go and something to do. But that was for Megan's 40th. Did you have a thing?
For my 40th?
Yeah.
So I had a couple things actually. Like, you know me, I like a lot of attention and like I love birthdays
Insanity,
and like everybody
late
looking
nights,
and singing at me.
lots of
Yes,
hugs.
Lots of touching.
Yeah.
So I really didn't necessarily want to do anything. But my dad came in town. He's living in Oklahoma now with his girlfriend, and they
Where at?
lady friend. I don't know what you say
Yeah.
about people in their 70s.
I like that term.
He's in Edmond.
Okay.
So they came in town. They took me, Tiffany, and Jessica to Eddie V's, which was delicious.
Italian?
It's
No.
seafood.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So and I'd never been, so we did that, and
What'd
I
you
was
have?
good with that. I had the scallops, I believe.
Okay. Were they good?
They were. Jessica went big time, I think, and got like the
No way.
lobster.
No way.
And I can't remember what Tiffany got because I think I would have thought she would get the scallops because
Mac and cheese with a Caesar and a side of fries.
Somebody was talking about the Tiff special today. The
Oh,
Caesar
today?
side of fries,
Okay.
yeah. But so we did that. I also had dinner with my mom and my
Cool.
brother and his kids, and then a friend of mine did organize a dinner, and I thought it was going to be, you know how you have like different groups of friends. So I thought it was going to be this group of friends, and then Megan, they ended up contacting Megan, and she surprised me, and she came in town like in late March
With only one child?
with my Molly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Megan came, and your sisters came.
Sure.
And so it was fun.
Right.
We went to Bristol.
Okay.
Kind of had like a private room.
That's cool.
So yeah, I had a good birthday.
Did you feel special?
I sure did.
I mean, there's, all the however many years growing up where it's like, do you feel any older? And you're 9 instead of 8. And it's like, no, it's just Tuesday.
I do feel older.
Well, 40 is like, because, I mean, like, you could be 39 in 364 days, but you're still like in your 30s.
39.
You hit 40, and like I immediately, like the day that I turned 40, the day after, it was like I felt like I could see the first glimmer, of sunrise, but it's 50. Just it's over there. Just like, no, not yet. I got a decade. Come on, man. And then after that, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But, so. Do you hang? Do you have work folks that you have a work circle of people?
Yeah. So, I mean, so that was what is kind of interesting. Not really interesting at all, actually, but the place that I volunteered at that I mentioned, Children's TLC, I ended up working there for 6 or 7 years. And then I've been in Shawnee Mission now for 11.
Okay.
And I have a couple people who have been there the whole time.
Shawnee Mission as in the hospital?
As in the school district.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Gotcha. Do you bounce or do you have a place?
No, I'm in the same building. I'm lucky in that.
Cool. USD 512.
Right? I do know that.
Good stuff.
So I'm at Neiman Elementary, and I have a couple friends there that, and then friends that I've made that are no longer working there. But yeah, I do have some good friends there that, I have a friend of mine who's like, constantly like playing pranks on me.
Oh, funny.
Mm-hmm. He like tells my students that I wear flats a lot or like boots and stuff. So he tells my students that I don't know how to tie my shoes. And that's
oh my
why
gosh. Okay.
But they believe him,
Right.
and they like look at me like very concerned, like Miss Twibell.
Right.
Mr. Soto says you don't know how to tie your shoes.
One of my favorite Jim Gaffigan bits is, I guess he's more of just a line guy or a joke guy than a bit guy, but he asks have you ever tried to merge or marry two different groups of friends?
Yeah, I don't love it.
And he goes, I forget, there's two pieces to it, but one of them's like at the last, by the way, these people think I don't drink, and don't say anything about the witch's costume. It's like, go.
Yeah, it's it's fun to have everybody, I guess, together, but I would prefer to keep my groups separate.
Right. So the sports talk radio, like, I'm assuming you're an 810.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't ever.
I mean, I do dabble a little in 610 in the afternoons only.
Okay.
Like
the drive.
The drive.
Yeah. Who is it these days?
Carrington Harris.
Oh, I love C-Dot.
I like him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember.
He had a co-host for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't anymore.
Oh, I mean, he doesn't need one.
I think he does a good job.
I remember when he kind of came on the scene, and they hit the. I guess you start in the evening, like late, like after 6 or whatever, and then you're in the morning,
and then you work your way down
to the 2 to 6, whatever. But I remember him being the right hand person to somebody else's show, and being like immediately like, oh, this guy's gonna be good.
Yeah, was it with Nick Wright?
Yeah,
maybe that.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because he still has Nick Wright on sometimes.
Yeah,
as a guest.
Yes, he would. Yeah, and by that time, I think Nick probably had 2 people, and C-Dot was one of them.
Yeah, and then it was him and Danny Parkins, who's gone to Chicago.
Yeah, I've seen he pops into my TikTok feed doing just clips of his show.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good at what he does.
Yeah.
I do not need an invitation to boast anytime the opportunity presents itself that I have been fantasy and sports talk radio free for 9 years.
Have you really?
Yeah, and it's just like the best thing ever. I mean, the fantasy thing at the time was like 3 footballs. I had done years of a baseball and then a hockey, and just garbage performances. Like whether I go with people that swear by auto draft and just it's fine, it works at, or a study and try to just so I'd always start with garbage team. I can never be quick enough if somebody got hurt, and you know the trajectory for that backup that's gonna, and so it's just multiple times a week I'm like fuck, and then I'm giving money.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah, and then sports talk. I was doing, I did 3 years of social work, and I was like a case manager over at KCK. And so you're either in the community, at the home, or at school with kids. But so like a decent amount of driving.
Right.
And I just like an idiot didn't realize what I was. I mean, I suppose I did in the back of my mind, but it's like drive from point A to point B, and I'm intrigued about the topic, and then break for commercial, and it's like I gotta stay here in my car for the next segment because they're definitely gonna get to the actual detail and answer all my questions. Yeah. And then it's like it just idiot callers, just
Well, that is the thing that of the shows that I do listen to. Most of them don't do callers anymore.
Oh man,
I can't do callers.
Oh God, just brutal.
Yeah.
We had on Friday we had a meeting and then another meeting. And the other meeting the first one was in person, the second one was virtual, and it's however many of me there are across the country, I don't know, but they've chose at random 1,000. There's a lot of people. Like there's 150 just in the Kansas, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
So however, and then it's like Canada and Ireland and the Bahamas and Mexico and who knows how many there are. But they chose 1,000 supposedly at random, and so starting Monday we're participating in this this time study, to where the platform that we use for some things.
Of your productivity?
To see what are the roadblocks,
Okay.
how can we make this, it's supposed to be not, they really want the aggregate results. It's not that they're not going to look at your stuff. So there were 2 calls for that on Friday. One was at 1:30 and one was at 3:30. So I got on the 1:30 and there were 500 or 600 people on it. And just, I mean, immediately, like there's 2 or 3 presenters, immediately somebody's vacuuming.
Right.
And it's like, she's got I don't know, I've never led a Teams call, but it appears that, if you're leading and speaking, that maybe you can't see the chat at the same time, or if you need to get in and like try to mute people. It's so she had to have somebody else take over so she could look into whatever was happening. And so they get it solved, and as soon as they get back to her, somebody else is I mean, it's like they may as well been throwing dishes into the dishwasher. You could just hear them washing, just like, God damn.
I do not miss that.
And the chat is just, I mean, it was a 45-minute call, and from the minute I was on there until the minute I hung up, people are just in there with, one-off tech thing. Like, it won't let me log in. It just, I mean, dozens and dozens. And I was like, oh my God. And the meeting that we came from was just our group and our boss. And I was like, we're not the most polished and amazing bunch, but holy shit, are we amazing compared to this?
Right.
But so where does this sports talk radio, where did this come from?
Well, I enjoy sports.
Yep.
Like I said, my dad was a pretty big athlete, so he and my brother were both into sports. So like Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, that was what we watched or talked about or played.
Okay.
And so it just kind of came from there.
What did you play?
I played basketball, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Center.
Right.
Yeah. Tore an ACL dunking.
Right.
But
dominated the
boards. Did you play it for a good bit, or?
I played it in grade school and then freshman year of high school.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was good. I liked it, but obviously, I didn't really have a future.
Right. Well.
So, I often had said that I think if I would have, because the other rule was like, you can't play sports until you're this age, and then you get to pick one sport. So I picked basketball because I loved it. But I think I probably would have been better at soccer. Like I'm more like the soccer build
type. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with hoops. He's
Are
good.
you?
He's good. He went to Bill Self Camp last summer. He's going again. I love it. I mean, obviously, had he started and been more serious younger, he'd be further. But anyway,
he's still pretty young though.
He is. But and then Adeline, I have convinced myself, and you can't tell me otherwise, that this sport for her at this time in her life is like the ideal vessel for confidence building, because she doesn't have much, generally speaking. I mean, she does have like, fashion savvy, and she knows what's cool, and she has friends, and she's obviously got strengths and weaknesses, but like I feel at her core that she lacks a general sense of normal confidence.
Sure.
And so
it's hard at that age.
I'm doing the dance where I'm pushing as hard as I feel like I can push, just to get her to develop some skills, like that thing with the ball on it at the bottom of the staircase, a dribble up or dribble stick. She does.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. It was one of her Christmas presents this year. But she started with 90 seconds. She's up to 2.5 now, but every day she's got to go over there and do pound, pound, cross, pound, pound, cross. And, I didn't tie it to games for a month. And then finally I was like, because literally they just hot potato, like, and nobody's making chest passes, nobody's making bounce passes, nobody's making it's all just making arches in the air, like as if there's an imaginary goal they're trying, and the 99% of them are turnover fast break results. So at some point I was like, hey man, like, I've been talking to her for 2 years. I was like, you have the right to that ball just as much as anybody does, because when she gets it, she wants to get rid of it because she doesn't want to make a mistake.
Sure.
And so anyway, I'm like, the next time you catch a pass, just remember, this is triple threat. You haven't used you've got all 3 options available. Take 1 second and look. And then all of a sudden she's like, damn, around the perimeter. I'm like, and then she, after the game, she had this look on her face like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, you're over here sculpting muscle memory, mostly against your will, daily.
Yeah.
Now just try it out. And anyway, I hope that, I know that it has already worked a little bit, and I hope that it continues to be a thing where maybe she doesn't connect the dots in the moment, but later she'll be like, oh, I could probably do that if I work at this. And then anyway.
Yeah.
So how long has gluten been?
Is that in your notes?
Yeah.
It's been, I think, about 5 years now.
Is that it?
Yeah.
God, it feels like 15.
I know. Yeah.
When? Tell me how it all.
I just started not feeling well and couldn't figure it out why. And they had me go through
sluggish or nauseous, or
no, other stuff.
Okay.
Things
sure.
I probably don't want to put on a podcast.
So I was already
but just wasn't feeling well, couldn't really figure out why. They wanted to rule out, so they had me make sure there wasn't a tumor or a mass or something. Okay. So I had to do some ultrasounds and stuff like that. And then basically they were like, you need to try an elimination diet and cut out caffeine, dairy, and gluten. And I remember sitting there being like, what about alcohol? And then I was like, don't ask. Don't want to know. So I did that and then reintroduced them, and it turns out it was gluten. So no more beer, no more donuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Pasta.
They make some decent gluten-free pasta.
Same with pizza crust.
Yeah.
Some decent.
Actually, a couple gluten-free beers that are not terrible either.
Okay.
But,
okay.
And so I've
symptoms are in the rear view.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've gotten pretty used to it now. There's occasionally I'm missing a few things, but for the most part, it's probably stuff I should stay away from anyway.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of navigate the waters, and then sort of smooth sailing with the occasional, I sure would like a whatever, slice of pie or a beer or
a boulevard wheat.
Yeah.
Yep.
And okay, so this is a thing that again, kind of an awareness over here, but I don't. A while passed before I was like, oh, this is a thing, and that's girls' trips. Now I feel like every third time I'm on the phone with Tiffany, she's coming or departing from a meeting about the upcoming trip and the plans, and how many.
So I've only done one.
Okay.
The one last summer.
Okay.
To Italy, Greece, and Croatia. They're going back to Greece, but I am, not made of money, so.
You're not part of the upcoming.
I was invited, but I just can't afford it.
Right. Now, the gig that you have is that a thing where you could take it all the way and then comfortably be retired, or is it not?
You mean as far as speech pathology?
Yeah.
So yeah, the district actually has a pretty decent retirement set up.
Are you? You strike me as somebody that's got a very clear plan of how your finances and so forth will
I'm
go.
glad I present that way.
Okay, interesting.
I finance stuff for whatever reason just doesn't stick with me as far as like understanding like 401ks and Roth IRA versus IRA
Sure,
and like
but you have those things.
but I do have them.
Okay.
Because my brother has financial, like he has an MBA, and so he kind of tells me things I should do.
Okay.
So I try to be.
So if the rest of those gals can cobble it together, well, what's standing in your way financially? Do you have currently a big thing that you're trying to chisel away at, or?
I had to get a new furnace
Home
recently.
ownership, yeah.
Yeah, mostly home ownership stuff. My house, I've now been there for, I want to say 13 years.
Okay.
So like a lot of the stuff that I did when I first got there is now cycling around to, like it needs to be painted. Like that's not cheap either.
I thought we could get like 8, 10, 12 out of a paint job.
So I only painted the trim when I first moved in because I have stucco and brick. And so I don't know when the last time the stucco was painted. So, just like not fun homeowner stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's so many things that I like, oh, dude, how amazing. I'm going to do that. And then it's like, no, if I could just figure out how the mortgage is going to get paid for that month, then I could do it.
Right.
Otherwise.
And one of the things I figured out is that I can't do it if I spend a bunch of money in Greece.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness. Fuck, I wrote this whole big thing about homework and struggling with, so Anna's weird, right? Like she's like very, very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah.
But also has a wrinkle about her that like she always wants to be the smartest.
Okay.
I feel like the default human is to think, or at the very least maybe don't think of it, to say out loud, I'm never the smartest person in the room, but she's always like, if I better be. So, obviously we're smart in different ways.
Sure.
But if you had to look at the receiving yards and rush yards and touchdown, look at all the stats of smart, like she's probably I'm not going to say she's going to have a clean sweep, but she's going to have a lot of them, right?
Compared to
me.
To you. Okay.
So, when struggles scholastically cropped up, it was like immediately when pandemic happened.
With the kiddos?
Yeah, and now we're homeschool. I mean, it was awful. And there are a lot of things that just don't click for Adeline. I mean, obviously she's a different person than me or her mom or her brother, but there are things like, I mean, I almost killed her when it was time to learn how to read the face clock.
Oh, yeah.
Just wouldn't stick. And I'm like, there are 4 15-minute, and we'd tears and frustration, and then we'd get someplace, and all right, tell me. And she'd be like, 4011. I'm like, oh my God, but I can see her experiencing what I experienced in math.
Sure.
With whatever the thing happens to be. I mean,
Right.
math and science, hopefully she got a little of that from her mom and won't just be stuck with, but I see it, but I can't maintain any kind of calm and like appropriate teaching class.
It's hard.
I so many times I would be like, are you fucking stupid? Like, that's never going to come out of my mouth, and it's never going to be productive or helpful.
Right.
But I was just like, I started this line, and next thing I know, I'm half a page deep. And the end of it was going to be, help me fix that.
So it's funny because like our building, where I work, we don't send home homework.
Okay.
Because we found that, well, we have a very high English language learner population. So, like, we feel like homework is a lot of work for parents too.
Oh man, yeah.
And so it kind of puts those kids at a disadvantage because they might not have parents that can help them with it if they don't speak or read English. So, and then also, if there was homework, it was supposed to be something that the kids, it's just like practice, not a new skill or a new
Right, of course.
So, but we don't do homework, and it's kind of mind blowing to me because I felt like I did a ton of homework.
Insane.
Yeah.
By high school, it was like 3.5 hours a night.
Right.
I mean,
I'd come home from school and pretty much do homework except for dinner until I went to bed.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with it now just because I think with no homework, because it's like kids need, when you come home from work, you don't want to do more work. Like you need to relax, and so do kids. So
pandemic was, navigate working from home and then navigating two different, so it was kindergarten and third at the time, I think. And they were each have like 6 or 7 Zoom calls a day on different schedules. And so it could what ended up happening almost every day was we would finish with all of our stuff at 8.
Yeah.
And then now, all right, we got to figure out dinner, and then bath, bed, and start over. But it's just funny. I mean, I've told her I'm going to be able to help on my nights up to a certain point with the math and the science.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to make another arrangement because I'm not going to be able to. But it's been it's over the hill.
Yeah,
it's
you got some time.
And then this year it was dividing and multiplying fractions. So fuck, maybe we might,
right.
We
I know. I had a 6th
grader
grader once ask me, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't teach math."
Do they common denominator? Is that,
right.
She's like, yeah. And what's crazy is that she has this simple solutions book, and it's just pages of it's like a grid.
Yeah, they have all these new ways to teach it, and
but it's not like a textbook with a passage from a chapter and then a worksheet about that stuff. I'm always like, where's the text? Where's your content?
Right. Where's the example problem?
We Google shit.
Right.
It's at least once a week. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's why we don't do homework in my building, because it's like it's frustrating for everybody involved.
Yeah. I want to move to your records, but I got to pee.
Okay.
Are you good? Do you need anything?
I'm good.
Anyway, so CDs on Friday nights. Do you remember? So you're listening to their stuff. Do you remember? Was there an album that you or first got or heard with a friend or loved as a young person before you?
Trying to remember. I remember my dad got me my first CD ever.
Oh, really? What was it?
And I meant to ask Jessica because I remember the song that I liked on it, but I can't remember who it was.
Oh,
I could text her, but because she played it randomly when we were in Croatia.
Okay,
and I was like, oh, this is the song. I don't know what happened to the CD.
Sure,
but no, and when you were talking earlier about high school and the girl who was into kind of the grunge stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and I think back now on it, I went through a phase where I loved Soundgarden and
she wore the grunge outfit.
I did.
What she's listening to is the hype of 80s electronic melodramatic.
So
Cure.
she wasn't into the.
She just was wearing the outfit.
But I listened to every once in a while, I'll hear Black Hole Sun on the radio, and I'm
great song.
It is a great song, but I can't believe my parents weren't like, is she okay?
Right.
Why is she so into this? This is really depressing.
I had I can't find this person. I mean, I haven't tried too terribly hard, but Spanish 2. I was before I left for college. I good start to the bad grade feeling. Spanish 4, I got an F because of absences.
I was gonna say you're good at Spanish though.
Yeah, but so Spanish 2, so there's some of a soft. There's freshmen up to juniors in there, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting next to this girl who is a year younger, and she is like just that. You've never seen, like, you thought you knew all the things that make a person beautiful or attractive, and then you like see a person that has a whole new set of stuff, and you just like kind of can't stop looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
That was this girl.
Okay.
And I mean, day one, I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to think about anything else for the rest of my days in this building. And then one day she like was blowing her nose, and she got up to throw the Kleenex in the trash, and she was wearing cut off jean shorts and
You could see.
Sharpie across the two back pockets, Soundgarden.
Oh.
And I was like, what's that? And she was like, you know, because she had taken them from her older sister to wear. And so she was trying to not let her know that she had taken them and worn them to school. But anyway, that whole experience, and she had worn them a couple times. But that whole experience I made Anna, like, I contributed a pair of my jeans, cut the legs off, and wrote Soundgarden and made her put them on. And then I took a picture, and it was for the day Chris Cornell died.
Oh,
I was like, that's the first day I ever I saw the word Soundgarden before I knew. But they were, you were kind of vibing with that stuff early.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
apparently.
Right.
Then, but I liked others. I also remember I loved Crisscross.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mac
Jump,
Daddy,
Jump.
the Daddy
Yeah,
Mac.
right. What were some of the other things that I liked when I was younger? I mean, like, Green Day was big when I was in 8th grade.
Sure.
However, I put that on my list, and I went and listened to it. I think it was this morning. And I was like, I remember like studying the lyrics to like Longview and like all this stuff that in the little like
The liner notes.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
I totally knew that. But then when I was listening to the album today, I was like, you must have just been obsessed with like 4 songs on here, because like I was listening to them and I was like, I don't remember this one.
Right.
And when I re-listened to the other 2, I knew all the words still, like all the songs, all the words. So
Well, so Andrew Leroy was on episode 43, and I think he gave me 5, and Dookie was one of them. And I was like, this will be interesting. I mean, I know what I know accidentally. But they have sold like a crazy, crazy number of records and have like insane fan base. So that was 3 of 30. This is 1994, Dookie, Green Day. The 3rd of 13 records for them. Most recent was 2020. I was like, they're still around?
Yeah,
putting
I
out
think they
records.
are.
Yeah. So frequent point of debate is not old school punk, but credited with really putting punk on the map. And, so did you get punkier than Green Day ever, or?
No.
Okay.
That's the thing is I feel like a lot of my stuff was pretty like, in college I dabbled with a few like bands that were not as like big name, but a lot of the stuff I listened to would be like things I heard on the radio.
Okay. Well, the quotes that I found from his episode was dude from the Sex Pistols says, and not drift into a British accent and derail this, but so there we are fending off all that, and it pisses me off that years later a wank outfit like Green Day hop in and nick all that and attach it to themselves. They didn't earn their ways to do that, and if they were true punk, they wouldn't look anything like they do, which made me picture Billy Joe with the green hair. And then a dude from Bad Religion said they're a punk band, but punk is the legacy of rock and roll, and Green Day are the biggest band in the game when it comes to punk. So it's like people from two big things are like, yeah,
different,
but so how did they? Was it radio? Was it a friend? How did they or this album first?
I think it was radio. I don't remember a friend like bringing it up. I mean, when you're that age, you kind of go with what everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
But I do remember distinctly like sitting on the floor at my dad's house, like trying to memorize the lyrics and like
To
Basket Case, and then the one the it was Longview, right, where he talks about masturbation.
I think so.
And I
Yeah.
remember just being like, I'm not quite sure what this is, but I feel like it's something that I shouldn't know about. So I was like,
don't recite these lines at
right.
the dinner table.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, you know, that when you're a kid and you're like, ooh, this is maybe something I shouldn't be reading. But yeah, I liked Basket Case, Longview,
I mean, there's some big hits.
When I Come Around.
Yeah,
I like the ones that so it wasn't super unique.
That opening, you know, ring,
Yeah.
like that one note.
It's still fun,
yeah,
you know?
it is. I meant to print these off in time to write the track listing down. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So at the very least, we get the album art.
I do remember the cover.
And just, you know, kind of like rising and falling on syllables and sounds like, you know, just kind of just the words are sort of falling out. I haven't spent a lot of time with this gal, but one of the reaction videos that I have watched, she's called The Charismatic Voice, and she's an opera singer, and then so her deal is she listens to songs and usually with music video, and critiques them. Or shares, but it's all very technical. So she's done a lot of metal, which I'm like, whatever, I don't care about. But I saw one day that she had done Tom Sawyer by Rush.
I'm not familiar.
You don't know?
Would I know it if I heard it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Geddy Lee is the vocalist, and he's got he's got a good range, but he can stay up in the high notes and do it well. Gosh, I mean, I want to like sing a couple bars of it. It's you know, they're rest in peace to Neil Peart, who is one of the greatest drummers of all time, and so that it's a very big hit. It's their biggest hit, really.
Yeah.
But for the final third of the song, he's doing all of the insane fills, and then, you know, if there's some really great, just, you know, if you just Google his kit, you look at it and it's like, what is that? Is that like an island that several tribes of millions of people live on? Because there's so many things, like you can't even see where one would enter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's got so many symbols and woodblock. I mean, it's crazy. It's a beautiful image. But anyway, so there's a lot of synth, you know.
Okay.
But anyway, so he hits some pretty specific high notes in this song, and she talks about, and she's very cute and very giddy and loves, and so she backs it up a lot, and just
like analyzing.
Yeah, and so immediately she's talking about how she loves the way that he's like closing his teeth as consonants end, and there's like a term for it that escapes me now, but it's like I never in a million years would have made that kind of associate. And then when he hits those, she really loses it and goes back, and she just by looking here, she can tell that he's doing it all the right way,
right,
and not straining, which you know, I've
proper breath support.
Yeah, and the muscle selection, involuntary or otherwise. But you know, I've come across bands from, you know, people give me records, and I read, you know, I've had several folks give me some hardcore stuff.
Really?
Like, you know, what time do you want me? You're like, that's the whole album, not just one song. It's like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, that's not really that was never really mine.
Right,
yeah.
But I've come across things where, you know, somebody will just launch into that, and, you know, maybe they've made 2 records or whatever, and the new one's out, so now we're gonna tour in support of it, and they book 7 months worth of gigs, and 2.5 months in they got to cancel the whole thing because there's no repair.
Right.
But anyway, she's talking about the way, and then she talks about how he's standing, and I'm like, what and then she goes, so there's so much support to doing that, and then a deeper level is if you're barefoot, like you can be more in touch with the floor and get even more correct. Yeah, wild stuff. But I mean, yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 big tracks on this record, and not that every song's amazing, but then there's a couple non-hits that are good tunes.
Yeah, one of them I heard today, and I was like, I don't remember this one at all, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah. Catchy for sure. So that was 94, and we stay in 94 with the
Weezer.
Blue album.
Yeah.
And so Eva had Pinkerton. Which,
did she?
Yeah, which was, there was a little bit of familiarity, but I found myself, I thought, this must be the big Weezer album that everybody knows. And so I'm like I'm like, this is not. And then I'm like,
the blue one is,
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It is such a good record.
It is.
It's, their debut. They come out, and this is their initial release, and it is. There's not a bad track on it, honestly.
Right, and that was what I was remembering when I was listening to it. So for me, I liked it initially when it came out.
Okay.
So, but I mostly liked the Sweater Song and Buddy Holly, and then I remember Only in Dreams was like the song that we always played at our St. Peter's dances for the last dance.
Really?
It was the only long song on the album. But then it came back, it cycled back around for me in college. My roommate and I just loved it again. I always loved it, but like we would listen to it first to last song. And so while we were like getting ready to go out, like pre-gaming, we'd listen to Weezer and like pretended like drum along. And now as an adult, I love it still.
It's
and I also love like just like the simplicity of the way they like did the album cover, and it's just like it's
the videos.
It's just the music does. You don't have to like dress it up a lot.
One of them was I know you're too young to have had Happy Days on, but but there was
the Buddy Holly one.
Yeah,
right?
and they instead of whatever, it was like literally the set, or made to look like the set of Happy Days, and instead of whatever band that would have come up, it's Weezer,
Yeah.
So getting ready for hers, I kind of just like, oh wow, this is a really amazing album, and like not only
It's good.
Are there 3 or 4 major hits, but all the other songs are good too.
Right. And
I was like, that's good to know. And then sit down for this, I'm like, oh, here we are. So I'm doing like an official listen, and I get with several songs I had this experience, but none greater than Undone, the Sweater Song. Like I couldn't stop picturing you like driving around and rocking out to it, and I was like, that does not.
It doesn't. You don't think that's my?
I mean, I for sure believe that you did, but it's like, I picture you in your all white outfit and your perfect hair and your glass of white wine that fits your diet.
Around? Yeah.
No, now.
Okay.
Especially because the simplicity of a lot of their riffs, kind of this clicking, kind of crunchy that it feels like like a pontoon boat. It's kind of forever propelling the thing forward.
Yeah.
And you catch a couple of cool things along the way, but there's a little bit of grit and oomph to certain, like I said with Green Day. I mean, it's like the way he says sweater,
right.
Just kind of shoots, is about to fall out of his mouth, and then check marks up. And
I was trying to think of, there was a word that he said the other day, and I sing it that way, and I thought about it, and I was like, that's a really weird way to pronounce that word.
Exactly.
Now I'm trying to think if it was sweater or if it was something, one of the other lyrics, but.
Well, when I come back in 2000 and whatever, I kind of had like 10 high school. So whoever's here still is kind of who I'm hanging out with. And that was around that time, was when I was exposed to Guitar Hero.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Not never been a huge gamer. But My Name is Jonas is one of
It's a
the,
good one.
oh my God. And it's real. Like you can, it's sort of like, oh, this is how you play. If you don't go expert right out of the gate, you really get a feel for it. And it's just, I mean, it's kind of an aggressive in your face, but like it's chill. It's not like, oh, turn it down.
Right.
It's not, it
Right.
doesn't rub you the wrong way.
Right.
But that one and Buddy Holly, the Sweater Song, and then I think Say It Ain't So is one of the most perfect songs ever written.
That is the one that's stuck in my head currently.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
and then they're like being silly with
Right.
but they're actually singing really nicely at the same time.
Right? It's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting, like, I don't know if paradox is the right word, but like the way that they can do that.
Yeah.
Say It Ain't So. I actually, like, I forgot how much I like No One Else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think My Name is Jonas is the perfect first song.
Oh
for the
God.
album.
Yeah. If these are the songs
Yeah.
that are going to be, it doesn't matter what 2 through 12 or whatever, but that has to be one.
It kind of set the tone.
It absolutely did. And also, Weird Time. You have, this whole like oldies / Beatles spills into the 70s, and the 70s is kind of, the album is born, and records are huge, and people are making double albums, and it's just album, and then all of a sudden the 80s, and there's this whole new crop of people that are, they look different, first of all, and not necessarily using traditional instrumentation. There's a lot of
Right.
weirdness, and everybody says there was a lot of cocaine in the 80s. I'm assuming they're right about that. And then kind of at the end of the 80s, like, well, we've covered everything now. Like, what could possibly be next?
Yeah.
But of course, rap and hip hop are building
Right.
up, and then we get grunge.
Yep.
And then, everything is like Rolling Stone and Spin, and MTV's already kind of drifting to the back because they're not playing as many music videos as they.
And that was in the 90s.
Well, the early 90s, since I think that's around the time you start getting like Road Rules and
Right. Real World.
that one. And all of a sudden, Weezer's here, and it sort of felt like they come on the scene and were precisely what we needed in the American rock landscape at the exact time we needed them. Like, we can be goofy, we can be nerds, we can be rock stars. You can take us and pluck us into a sitcom from the 70s.
Right.
Just, I just, a lot of respect for him. I drifted off, I've never really done a deep dive. Have you listened to other stuff by them, or?
I had the green one as well, but I didn't take to it as much. Island in the Sun is a really good song.
Okay.
And then what was their more recent hit? I'd have to think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Will you slide your phone back over by your
Yeah.
beverages? I think it just starts making crackly noises. It's like the old, again, when I'm like 2000, well, so I remember specifically in 04, I was living with Matt, and I moved into a place by myself. First and only place I've lived by myself on Harrison, because I got accepted to grad school at UMKC.
Was that the, like, where you were like in an attic kind of?
Yeah.
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 Megan and I came once after a night out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there was like the second bedroom was where my desktop was. And it's when, now texting is here.
Right.
It's never been here before. It's also never going anywhere. But, and I had a dial-up internet connection.
Right.
And I could hear in the connected internet like for a half second or a second before a text would come in. Like I could actually hear it, like ding, 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 and I knew a text was about
like, ding.
something, whatever. But so like for many, many episodes, I'm messing with connections and then one day I was like, oh, I think my phone is right there.
Probably.
Anyway,
I'm sure it interferes with it, a lot of stuff.
But I have not stayed tuned in to whatever their path has been. But I mean, all time epic album. So funny to have such an I was doing somebody's the other day and it was like they had a bunch of folks, it was probably the CIA dude, a bunch of records that I was like, huh? And I'm researching the first or reading about the first one, and the Apple Music blurb called it like a career crippling debut album.
Oh,
because it was so good that everything after that was just garbage.
Yeah,
and it turns out there wasn't much after that one anyway. But I was like, imagine that we've finally made it all those years practicing in the garage, and now we're renting space, and then we gig, and then a label takes a chance on us and ponies up some money for us to record, and we made an album, and it was so good, and that was never going to be that good ever again.
Sophomore slump.
I mean,
that kept slumping.
Exactly. But so, and then we dip ahead to 96 for Crash.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Dave Matthews Band.
Are
you scale of 1 to 10? Are you 1 occasionally listen, 10 I want to have your babies, Dave? That's the scale of
like present day or back then?
Back then.
I was pretty up there. I loved him.
Yeah, man.
I saw him in concert more than I think I've seen anybody. I will say, like, listening back on them now, I still enjoy the music, but I definitely feel like Weezer holds up better.
Okay. Like, are you talking Blue Album to Crash specifically?
Yeah.
Not band to band?
Correct.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that might have been my first concert.
I skipped over that question, so thank you. Like in support of Under the Table and Dreaming, or in support of Crash? Do you remember?
It would have been after both, because I believe I was like 15.
Okay.
No, so maybe it would have been Crash.
Okay.
It probably was Crash, because you said that came out in
96.
Yeah, so it's probably Crash.
Okay.
My mom let Megan and I go. I know, and it was during finals. On like a weeknight, and she also let the neighbor boy drive us. Like, we went unchaperoned to Dave. So pretty sure that was my first concert.
Good time?
Yeah. I loved it. I mean, obviously we were like 15, so it was different. Like, as I got older, my experiences at concerts. But yeah. He does put on a good live show. There's like so much going on with all the instruments, and I don't know that much about. I know about voice from a speech pathology perspective, but I don't know that much about singing voice. I do like his singing voice, even though I'm sure it's like, I don't know that it's like what people would say it's classical or classically trained, but I really enjoyed it. His music's just kind of fun.
There's a lot of passion and soul packed into the songs on this one, and Under the Table and Dreaming was fun, and it was new and different. It also was kind of like sprouting with the whole jam band scene, and I think he still has ties to that, but he's obviously become his own
thing.
But big departure from Under the Table and Dreaming to Crash, in that Crash is just so powerful. And we'll have a little bit of fun, whereas Under the Table was like, this is party central.
Right, all fun. Yeah.
And so that when around this time, I start really kind of studying the way that his face is while he's singing, and it never matches. He could be like, oh,
Right.
and you're like, what are you? Which one is it?
And sometimes the eyebrow
Yeah,
goes up.
and the little knee
And the feet,
knock,
like,
feet
yeah,
shuffle thing. So Tiff had this one.
She said that, yeah.
Okay. And I was very surprised. So you got 12 tracks. Lead off track, I could take it or leave it. But 2 through 10 so the first song and then the second to last and the last are kind of like take it or leave it. But there's a real long run of one amazing track after another.
Yeah.
And track 2 is
Cry Freedom.
Two-Step.
No, Two-Step.
Which is just magical.
It's great.
I mean,
yeah.
Let's see here. Okay.
Crash is what, 5 or 4?
Again, track 5 is number 41,
Oh,
which
that's
is
a good one
also
too.
Phenomenal.
Which that was when I was listening back. I mean, I remembered it, but I kind of forgot about that song.
So that like crunchy metronomish drive of Weezer, but with kind of like pushing the car along, but with Two-Step, it's like you're like gliding on the water with like fairies
guitar,
pushing you. I mean, it's so it's almost like some unfamiliar feeling areas that he dips in and out of with that one. No shyness or reservation about basically announcing I'm sexy and I want sexy to sort of spill into, I mean, I remember the first time I heard hike up your skirt a little.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, wait, run that back one more time. What did he say?
Yeah.
And Lie in Our Graves.
That's one of my favorites from that album.
Might be the niftiest song ever written. It's just like, and I think it also, there's a vulnerability to it. It's corny or what. I mean, it's just
right, but
perfect.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So beyond Crash, since then,
they are one that I did. I think I have all of his albums. I had when I was looking through my CDs, I forgot that he had that one separate one with just Tim Reynolds.
Oh shit, where was she? 47. Live at Luther College. So I'm reading for that, and I guess Tim Reynolds he's been offered a spot in the band. He's never accepted one. He's just gigged with Dave. So I'm reading about this, and I think it's Pennsylvania. But there's this bar, there's a famous, I think maybe it's called Milwaukee's. Anyway, there's this famous bar, and Tim Reynolds is gigging there, and Dave Matthews is bartending. And he says, I'm after hours, I'm assuming, like, I play too. And he's like, dude, you should totally make a band and do a thing. And he's like, no. And then he introduces him to like a lot of the guys that would become his bandmates. And I was like, get the fuck out.
Oh, did.
That's how that happened.
Yeah, because they're great. I mean, the violinist, he was one of my favorites. And I love that they would let him just kind of like do his thing sometimes in the live shows.
Absolutely. Do you Come Tomorrow from 2019? Yeah, I think it's 2019.
So that's, I think after 2016, I kind of.
Come Tomorrow might be the best album he's ever put out. It's so fucking good. I mean, like, I don't think I would just start to finish. I wouldn't skip a single track. It's really, really good.
Well, when I couldn't find my my box of CDs, I trialed Apple Music. So
trialed.
Maybe
do you?
Yeah, I don't. Tiff was like, "You don't have Apple Music," and I was like, "No." I don't. So I will listen to that.
So are you a person that will remember when the 7 days is up and go in there and?
So it's a month.
Oh,
So I might
okay.
not.
Oh,
I mean, if I don't, you could cancel at any time, right? So
yeah.
if I end up paying $10 or whatever.
Absolute. I pay $70.
Do you have like a premium? Or do you do it like by the year?
By the year.
Okay.
So like anything, if they have it, I can have it.
I have to say, I really did enjoy it last night. I like how they like have the lyrics and you can learn about the albums. It's
great. So
pretty cool.
I have a Spotify playlist just playing 24/7.
See, this is the stuff that makes me feel
Time
old.
out,
I've
time
never
out,
gotten into
time out.
Spotify.
Hold on. I have a Spotify playlist playing because in a Fish fan Facebook group, somebody was like, check this out. It's the band's creative director put together all of their house music playing when you arrive at a show, house music intermission, music after. They choose. The band chooses what artist, what album that's going to be.
Okay.
I've been at shows and I've been like, oh my God, this is amazing. What is this? I'll never know.
Yeah.
I've been at shows where I'm like, oh my God, I have this record, and it's like a little known, so you feel like
feel special.
I've been at shows where they play like an album everybody knows, and it just fucking fits. Anyway, so she's taken all the full albums from 2009 to current that they've ever played, and made a playlist, and so it's like 10,600 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
With like 500 albums, and they're all amazing. And so it's on, and I don't pay, right? So
Okay.
so all I can do is shuffle.
Spotify there's a free option.
Yes, you just get
Okay.
ads, and you don't. If you want to go to a thing, you can't listen to it in the order that it was created. It's whatever it wants to give you.
Like Pandora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like right now, it's funny. This whole week, it's been playing this clip from the new Miley Cyrus tune,
Okay.
which is really good, whatever the tune is. But so I'll get some songs, and then they'll cut to ad, and they'll play this. And most of their ads are about like, you should pay us.
Yeah, right.
So it's that kind of ad trying to talk you into premium using this Miley Cyrus clip from this new song, which apparently whatever she just put out like shattered all kinds of streaming records or something. Anyway, so it'll end and then it'll play again. So I get the same ad back to back every single time it breaks. And it's funny because like normally that's the kind of thing that would drive me absolutely insane, but I'm like, oh, I get to hear that catchy little
tune again.
And Adeline knows
Adeline likes it.
So anyway, the point is, whenever I hear something awesome, I'll look it up, and then I'll put that album in my Apple Music.
Okay.
So then when I leave the house, I'm podcast here, music there. We'll do lots of places we'll go. We'll each, play a song by request. But if I'm just music, and I'm just shuffle all the time, shuffle. And if I don't feel like it, I just skip. And so I've added at least 115 albums to my Apple just because of this playlist, which is what I've been looking for my whole life. Somebody with my just dropping shit on me all the time. And, so many times, because it's always playing so many times. I'm like, who the fuck is this? This is, God damn, just banger after banger.
Right.
It's so great.
So the shuffle function, I love it when I'm in the certain mood for it. But today, when I was listening to Crash, I accidentally hit shuffle, and I was like, no, this I want to listen to in order. And I got really annoyed because I was like in the shower, so I couldn't unshuffle it at the moment.
Right.
I was like, I want to listen to this first to last. But most of the time, I love shuffling.
So talk to me about this thing that a lot of us go through in life where we see character attributes of one of our parents. and sometimes one or two of those attributes aren't necessarily our favorites
Yeah.
about them, and sometimes they may even bug us. And so it's a thing that is forever up here, or we're carrying it around or whatever, while watching ourselves begin to develop those very same behaviors and habits. I've had it with both, and I feel like I've in passing, like, kind of one of these numbers where, like, I know that there's a thing or two about your mom that you're like, but also you've seen it in yourself. Is that
Probably?
okay?
I mean, there's probably a couple things. One of the things that you've met my mom.
I have, and there's like kind of this the way that
She's pretty direct,
yeah,
right? And she says what she thinks.
kind of just quick,
Right.
like
Right. And
like I'm in math. Can we? I don't know.
She remembers everything,
Okay.
and she like, so like sometimes I will find myself. There'll be times when like she'll say things to people where I'm like, "Whoa, Liz, like that's not you don't need to get yourself involved there." And I find as I get older, this is like totally been out of my character. It would be out of my character, but like I feel that sometimes I'm being like more like tough love. This is what you need to do. This is how it should be. And the thing with my mom is a lot of the time she is right. Like, so it's kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm right, but there's been like a lot of situations lately where I'm like, I should be more empathetic, but I just want to tell them this is what they need to do to fix that problem. And it's really not my business,
No. I've taken it a step further, and like there was a lot of friction. Like, I think, not that it was ideal or perfect, but I think maybe you were, a therapist, a mental health therapist would list divorce as trauma.
Correct.
You might have escaped some of it being as young as you were.
I think in some ways, I think looking back now that it has affected how I proceed in my relationships. So,
do you want to say more about that?
I don't know.
The last time we talked about this, Cliff, right?
Who's Cliff?
Is that not right? From the apps?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
we'll call him Cliff. That's not his name.
Oh, is it close?
No.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I mean, there's L's in his name.
Yeah, you can tell me after. But I remember hearing about, and then I saw, and it was still.
Yeah, I mean, he and I are still in talks.
Okay.
But
okay.
I just,
Oh, Cliff. Now I know where Cliff belongs, and I got
okay.
L's and P's and I's,
there you
and
go.
so forth.
Yeah, I think in some way it has made me. I didn't think I was hesitant to commit to marriage, but I think sometimes when I look back at the people I pick, I tend to pick people who are not going to commit to me. So it's like
that
almost
will work.
it's almost like a, I don't know, I feel like almost like not a self-sabotage, but like
Yeah. So
then I don't have to.
Is that a thing that he wants?
He did at one point.
Oh, he took it back.
I mean, he's gone through divorce.
Shelf life on this.
It didn't have to do with me, I don't think.
Right,
I think it's
yeah.
like, you've been through divorce. It probably changes your outlook on marriage a little bit.
Get Megan on. I'm writing to let you know that you no longer are my favorite man to hang around with.
Megan can do my PR.
Right.
Yeah. No. So, anyway, I think it would be difficult for anyone to come out totally unscathed from something like that.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to imply that you did, but like with basically, well, you said the few memories you do have weren't like super fantastic,
sunshine and roses,
right?
Yeah.
But it's do you remember your folks playing music is one of the questions that I'm going to ask everybody. And I find myself realizing very early that a lot of people don't have any memories of them under the same roof, and so it's kind of okay. So
Right.
then
I have very few.
dad's music,
Yeah.
mom. Anyway, so
My dad was not as he's into music, but not as much as my mom.
well, the point about identifying pieces of our parents and being like, ugh, and then
Yeah.
becoming that very thing. I went. So there was a lot of friction. Her second marriage was 3 years and ended
Yeah.
not.
What was that guy's name?
Steve
Steve.
and Charles Ramsey the third.
Scuba Steve.
R.I.P. in peace to
Yeah.
him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to. It's been a number of years ago. Just trying to track him down and his daughter, who was kind of in our lives for a quick second.
Yeah.
And then I came across this obituary. I was like, "Oh my God, he's
Oh.
dead. He's been dead."
Did your mom know that?
She does now.
Okay.
I mean, I told her anyway. So we get back. Do you want to stay here with your friends in Atlanta? You want to be back where Dad is? What Dad is? And then it was rocky for a minute, just trying to get settled. And then it didn't take too long before she and I are not seeing eye to eye. And
Sure.
by the time I'm working and driving, like there's a couple shoves. There's definitely some suitcases.
Yeah. But you guys didn't. Did you guys stay at Jeff and Elaine's all that much?
No.
Yeah.
No. So Bradshaw.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then I think. I mean, they moved
one
to
at
the Jarbo,
77th?
77th and Jarbo, because job stuff and finances shifted, and then Aunt Lil needed somebody to
take care of her.
But there was always, for a while, I was trying to, report back, like Mom says and Dad says, hoping they would, and then when they both remarry in like 82, it was kind of like, this is all right, challenge accepted. This is going to make this even hard. And then the birth of Megan was like, well, I guess that's not happening. They're not. once there's a new human.
Yeah.
But anyway, just Megan is born. The new hat I'm wearing is trying to damage control. You tell your dad and you tell him, and then, there's a scene in
which I think you're not supposed to do.
Well, there's this Goodfellas.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while.
So Joe Pesci, his character, he like kills that dude in a bar.
Okay.
And he's a made man. You're not supposed to whack a made man or something like that. But he's like very, very close to like getting made himself. So that whatever they dispose of the body, and then the movie goes on, and several chapters down the road, now we've arrived at the day he's being made, Joe Pesci's character, and it's this whole to-do, like the whole vibe of the movie is now encompassed by this thing. And he's going into the room to see the boss or whatever with these two guys, and they open the door and it's just an empty room, and he like instantly he knows, and they kill him.
Yeah.
And Robert De Niro he's waiting and he's so excited, so he finally goes to a payphone, and whoever he gets on the phone is like he didn't make it, and he realizes in that moment, and like
bangs on
smashes like I watched my mom do that in our kitchen.
Oh.
Like after
banging
like
the receiver,
cursing and screaming, and it's like and I know that that's part of her personality, like that's always in there and easily provocable, and like to witness that, it's like I've never seen that man act that way in any arena of his entire life.
Right.
But I know that it's in you, and like you're not only are you displaying that behavior, but towards him, who's a person that, like, man, you're making it real hard to keep one foot in your camp over here. And so Tiff and I talked about this. Eventually, this made me a pretty good liar, because I would pay for shit
Yeah.
on my camp, car shit, shoe, whatever it was.
Just so you didn't have
tell
to
your
deal
father
with
he has to ask your mom what child support's for. Then
Right.
Just you know what, fuck that.
Yeah.
And then less fighting.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But knowing that piece of her personality and her mom, she got it directly from her.
Same thing.
Looks, nasty looks and lots, like an infinite size, and snarls and kind of like teeth gnashing.
Teeth
It's like
gritting,
it's like where the wild things are.
Yeah.
Comes to anyway. So I carry that. I'm like, here's the list of things I'm never gonna do.
Yeah.
But I'm also a little bit that person.
Sure.
And I've acted that way towards my kids, and now my kids sigh and roll their eyes, and I'm just like, fuck. I failed 2 generations. I failed myself, and I failed anyway. But you guys are close and enjoy each other's company, and
yeah, I have a pretty good relationship with both my parents, and I feel fortunate, and I have a good relationship with my siblings too.
Nice.
I feel pretty lucky. Sometimes a couple of them will drive me crazy, but on the whole,
can never relate.
right. But yeah, I feel very lucky in that capacity.
Cool.
So
sort of like, where I was going with the financial retirement stability thing. Have you got all the yet to happen chapters of your adulthood kind of dog-eared or mapped out in some kind of, do you look ahead linearly like that, or
not to that point? I mean, I do, but not that far ahead.
Okay.
I've been thinking more about it lately, just because somebody approached me with a different job, and so then I was considering like the retirement benefits.
Sure.
But, because in the school district, I think I won't, but I think technically I could retire before I'm like 55.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like we're getting to an age where that's like a consideration.
No,
retirement and
I
stuff.
know. So there's, to keep it simple, two avenues, and one is like career.
Yeah.
Until it's over, and then I'm whatever. I'm okay, but most of what lies ahead is like getting old and dying.
Right.
And then there's this like, that stuff's going to be there. Here are the things that I want to accomplish and I want to do. Are you up in this lane often thinking about things like that?
Well, I mean, I have thought about the fact that, work is work. I do think, I am a person of routine and I do well working. So I probably would need to keep doing that. And I probably would do it for a while. I think, just being at home doesn't appeal to me, not having structure and stuff.
Right.
So
not,
I don't know. I mean, I guess I haven't thought that far down the road, really.
Right.
I mean, I've thought that, I would like to retire comfortably. I would like to have like another place to go to in the winter, like somewhere warmer, like do that up
right.
real nice. But not.
But if you're like wrapping your life up like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And the bow is going to be a thing that you accomplish or experience or whatever to where you go, okay, this was a perfect life, and now I could put it under the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
What is it?
And
change the world, come up with a, cure cancer or write a book.
Well,
or
obviously I would do that. I don't see myself writing a book. I think it would be nice to travel a lot, like go places I have always wanted to go and see.
You got specifics that are rolling around up there?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to go back to Croatia and see more of it. I want to go to France, Ireland, UK. And even like there's just places in the United States that I would,
Sure.
you know,
Absolutely.
like to check out.
So you win tomorrow the lottery, 1.5 billion or whatever it is. I mean, what's immediately different and visible to others about your life, and what's down the road? What's something that winds up being obviously different? You're still gonna work?
I think so.
Okay.
Or maybe at least volunteer.
Sure.
Do something in that capacity. But I think I would try not to like, you know, change too much.
But I mean, you know, start a business or a foundation or
God, Blair,
become handy.
You're making me feel like I'm not that ambitious.
Well, I mean,
So one thing I would like to do, this can make me sound pretty basic, but I would like to buy and flip houses.
that was literally the next thing I was going to say. Would you become a buyer and a flipper of houses?
Yeah.
And
I love
are you,
doing
how
that
much
stuff.
sleeve rolling up are you going to do? Or are you just going
So-
to outsource it?
I would probably have to outsource like a lot of the contracting and stuff, but like I could do a lot of the cosmetic stuff, like painting and
Sure. If you don't want to like
small things.
redo bathrooms yourself.
I would love to. I guess so. That could be something I could learn how to tile and
Sure.
What else could I learn how to do?
Plumb.
Yeah. Stuff like that. I would enjoy that.
Bike across
No.
the country.
My mom did that.
The whole thing?
Yeah, she went from Washington State to the Florida Keys.
What?
Yeah.
When?
And my mom and my stepdad. It was like 12 years ago.
Okay. How long did it take them?
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
How awesome.
Yeah.
Did they love it?
I think they loved that they did it.
Oh.
There were definitely like times when it was like, you know, a grind,
Yeah.
like riding a bike uphill in the rain, and you know they had certain places they needed to get to, and it was for St. Francis, the church, and so like they stayed in a lot of like either like church dormitories or like places like that along the way, a few motels, hotels.
God, how long did they plan? How long in advance did they plan this?
A lot. It was
Yeah.
like a couple years.
Damn.
But it was yeah, I mean, I think they love that they did it.
There has to be, who knows what direction it could go, but there has to be something eye-opening from a relation standpoint. You know,
My stepdad, so he couldn't, I guess I shouldn't, he couldn't do the entire thing because he'd have to come back and work for part of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember, but it was a group of them. Like there were like 10 of them or something. So and it was like, you know, they had a SAG, like somebody that followed them in a van the whole way. And yeah, but that does not appeal to me. Maybe it will. I mean, you never know down the road.
Ari Shafir, I totally blanked. This is a smaller image, but the other thing I love about Crash is just beautiful, beautiful album artwork.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's so pretty.
It's always just appealed to me. But this comic, Ari Shafir will lock himself out of his devices and email and all that, and he'll just for 3 months I'm going to be over and
Really?
Yeah. And he recently did one of those, and it was an organized thing, and it was like Nicaragua, I mean, some central or south somewhere, and it's, I mean, like a good bit of this is like jungle, not like like crazy, but like not a lot of anyway.
Not yeah.
It's so there's a guide, and there's like 10 or 12 people, and it's the whole thing. You're not necessarily fast paced or time, but it's all a hike. You're traveling to all these different countries on foot, and so you get so far through the woods one day, and you sleep in a whatever, and then he realized like within the first 6 hours that one of the people, he's like, I can't fucking, like, I absolutely despise that
this person.
brand, the general brand of human, but this one has all the bells and whistles that make me want to
Really, yeah.
and so he's like, very quick, decision to like, I got to do something so that this doesn't become my trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess for like a week, he was trying to walk ahead, and the person was just given all the effort possible to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tried to lag behind, and so the person would lag behind because the person liked him, and he couldn't stand. And finally, he had to be like, "Hey, dude, I'm for the rest of this 2.5 months, like we can't be." However he put it,
Bros.
but I was like, "Fuck, man!" And then they like got into there's one country they were walking through. They get like halfway through, and it's an area where if you're not native to that, you're not allowed to be there.
Oh.
And so they like went into a hotel, and they were like,
"No,
you can't stay here." And they're like, "No, like we have money." And like, by stay here, I mean you aren't actually supposed to be here.
Yikes.
So you have to leave, and we're not as concerned as we are you leaving the hotel, but you got to leave. And he was like, "Go fuck yourself. What do you?" And they're like, No. So which is it going to be? Are you going to make your way out of here by continuing on, or are you going to turn back? And he's like, "No, we're going to fucking go find somewhere else to stay." And then they like put word out, and like more folks came, and
like,
move it along. I was
out.
like, "Oh my God, fuck, that's crazy." Yeah. Message to the world. Somebody
My
says,
message to the world?
everybody's dialed in, and you've got 15 seconds or 45, whatever it is, that is, going to resonate.
I feel like it's pretty cheesy, but I do feel like everybody should just be kinder and empathetic to everyone else.
Not cheesy, and it's a common one, and it would be mine if somebody asked me that
right.
too. So
everybody has their own shit going on.
Absolutely. Top of your head, top 2 things you would change if you were given the power to change about whatever it is in the world. Yeah.
Gosh. It's hard for me to like think outside of like children and education.
That's fine.
I mean, obviously I would like to like have cures for all these awful diseases, like cancer and Alzheimer's and ALS and all these like terrible things. That would be great. What would my second thing be?
So you got a disease curing wand that you're going to wave, and it's going to knock out like 5 or 6 of the top dogs.
I mean, like when I get ahead of myself though, and then I'm like, well, then there's that trickle down effect of all these people, then like this whole industry of people that wouldn't have jobs. And,
oh gosh, yes.
But in theory, yes, no more diseases, and then no more major diseases. I'm having trouble coming.
That's cool. That's a good one.
Like my second thing that came to mind was like, get rid of Donald Trump.
That's a good one too. You can make the argument that he falls under the first umbrella as a disease of sorts. So
yeah.
So there's still talks with the fella, but are you still on the things?
No,
not at all.
I got back on for a minute, and then I started likes started coming in, and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for this.
Gosh, I got it's been a handful of months ago, but I opened one, and whatever it was, the last time I had been on, I want to say it was When You Match.
Okay.
It was like visible and free before, and now it's like you got to pay. I was like, goodbye.
You do?
Yeah, I don't remember which one, but I was like, but it was, of course,
Bumble probably.
I don't remember which one it was, but I had gone through like it was, I'd gone through the checkout, and the final piece of the purchase was just to tap place order. So I'd like chosen a photo and my clever little
updated your profile,
whatever, all the things, and 50 to 150 miles and 4.3 to 6.1, all the things that
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck, because I just spent like 40 minutes. I was like,
No,
goodbye, delete.
Don't want to do it. Did Jessica tell you about, this is another reason why I was like, I don't know if I want to sign up for that again. Jessica was talking to a guy and was like asking how his week was going or something. And he was like, pretty good. I'm constipated. Like that was his response.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know that I like don't need to go back to that right now.
Any other records you want to give shouts out to? Or artists?
I also really like the Foo Fighters.
Okay. I had somebody on for 48, and they had a Foo Fighters record, which was a treat. I had never sat down and listened to them before.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I knew what I knew, and this one had, like, a bunch of hits.
They popped up for me recently just because of Taylor.
Absolutely.
And then they were playing some of his son. I don't know if you saw like the footage of his son playing in his place. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a little dusty in the room. Yeah.
Right. In college, I loved Guster.
I've always Megan Smith Zanner Johnson is the only human that knows who that artist
Guster,
is.
yeah.
I mean,
And then
but
Modest
they seem
Mouse.
to kind of hit college town circuits.
Yeah, they
and
never really
gig,
went like big time.
But wherever they would go, people would be like, "Yes, more of that."
I actually feel like they were maybe at Boulevardia.
Oh,
that
funny!
right?
I think that might
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then Modest Mouse was another one that I listened to a lot of.
You've always been a pretty avid reader too, right?
Kind of.
I
mean, recently it's been more like I read 5 pages and I fall asleep. But I've read some books in my day.
What are top all-time fave or top 3 or whatever just springs to mind?
Like going way back as a child, my favorite was Matilda.
Okay. Is that Roald Dahl?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then obviously I loved all the Beverly Cleary. And then
Elihu and I are in the middle of Henry and the Paper Route right now.
Yeah, Super Fudge, all those. High school, Cold Sassy Tree was one of my favorites. Do you know that?
Yeah.
One? Okay. Trying to think of something I've read recently where I was like, that was really good.
I had the I think she's the station manager now of the college where I went to school and had a radio show. She was the program director when I was there and was actually an East alumni.
Oh, really?
A few years older, and I think she's a station manager now. Anyway, she did one of these things on Facebook recently where it's like, do you want to participate in this thing where you'll get like $30? So, she's got, like I said, I want to do it. And so she said, okay, send a book to this person. And then, here's my information. And if anybody tells you they want to do it, then you put my information where her information was and your information where mine was, and then that, so on and so forth. And I was like, God, I've passed up on this several times, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So it turns out like I don't think you can successfully name an all-time favorite, and it's immediately accessible. You get it and send it to that person.
Right.
So I chose a book that I love by Chuck Klosterman. And he was writing for Spin Magazine and doing a feature, and he's really good at weaving like what he's actually doing and what he's thinking about, plus his relationship or relationships. Into Russell Banks always said that a good story is like a 3-legged stool. Like you take one leg away and it's just gonna topple. It's not gonna.
Okay.
So if you can have the 3, whatever they are, kind of come nicely in and out, kind of like a Dave Matthews Band song.
Yeah, there you
go. So I was like, and I sent it, and then one person was like, I'll do it, but they never shared the post or hit me up in Messenger. So I just sent a person a book. There's no books coming my
No,
way.
nothing's coming
Which
back.
is fine. I've got plenty that I saw read here. But I like the idea. I'm a person that to a fault will like attach myself to an idea and be like, oh, this will make everything perfect.
Right.
And then it's like, now I'm just standing here holding this. Okay. Any shows, podcasts, or hobbies that are current for you?
Podcasts. I listen to a couple of sports ones.
Oh yeah.
Well, I listen to Mina Kimes. I like
Okay.
Mina. And then I've actually enjoyed the Kelsey brothers one as well.
Have you done the Gronk episode?
I haven't yet.
I can't stand that guy.
I know he's so.
But I've heard it's good.
But
the Mahomes one was.
That one was good. I mean, I find a lot of them. I just find their dynamic entertaining. And then I do listen to
Jason kind of has that Lissa like quick and sharp and moving.
And it's just
forward.
funny to like hear the differences in their. You know how he like Travis makes fun of him for his fit day stuff, where he's like in a t-shirt and flip flops, and then Travis has like so just
$4,000 outfit.
Right. I listen to some true crime ones.
Okay.
One that I've been, and I don't know that I should say enjoying, but one that I listen to a lot is called Something Was Wrong. Interesting. Something Was Wrong. It's mostly about, bad relationships.
Oh,
but they're like crazy stories that these women tell. Mostly women.
Sure.
There's a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
And then I listen to some ones about the trashy reality shows I watch.
Okay.
On
So
Bravo.
there are some shows.
Mm-hmm.
This is like Bravo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I watch other shows too that are not trashy reality, but I've been watching The Americans recently. That's it.
Interesting.
What I'm on right now.
So, describe for me your perspective and processing of the text thread called Johnson Familia. I mean,
the name
love that
is genius, right?
It is. It's the best thread name ever. I love that you're in it. Oftentimes it's kind of like, well, I guess we didn't really have much to hide in the first place, but
right. I feel honored to be a part of it. As I'm sure Jack does as well.
I mean,
I didn't even know Jack was on it until like somebody made a comment and I was like, Jack's not on this. And then I was like, oh yeah, he is. He just has never participated or responded to anything.
He got added leading up to the 40th. Surprise.
Maybe.
Somewhere around there.
Maybe.
And it was like out of necessity for a minute, but he's got the reputation for leaving the text.
I'm really surprised he hasn't left it.
Well, I think, I think maybe when he used to leave, maybe he didn't know that you could silence him.
Oh, yeah. Instead, you could just turn on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah. What were you going to say? See?
Like, we can see Jack Blair has left
no, I think
conversation, but he probably doesn't care if we see that.
We've joked many, many times about it, and to him,
I really feel like that's also just how he would leave if he was here in person. He'd just
get
out.
Up more.
Yeah,
Later,
anything.
when we're done, we'd go up and his fucking car's gone, like he did.
Where's Jack?
So what about your relationship with Polo? Like, I know it's different. I was there for a minute.
Yeah.
And then it became. I was like, there's too many things for me to.
Yeah. At first, I was very uncomfortable with it, like just the idea of like, seeing myself. And this was before COVID, where everybody was doing things on Zoom and you're having to look at yourself all the time. But so at first I was like, this feels so weird. But now I love it.
I mean, so
I think it's great. I get to talk to all of them every day and know what everybody's doing every day.
So is it just the four of you? Or,
yeah,
and then
your sisters and me.
And then are you in other Polo threads too? Or?
So no, sometimes side polos happen, like
of
where
course.
Megan and I talk or Jessica and I talk.
Of course.
And we all act like
I heard a story recently where somebody was like, no side polos, please. And then whatever.
We all act like we don't do it, and we're like, oh my god, you're side poloing, gasp. But we all do it with each other. So
I definitely enjoyed it, mostly for one-on-ones with Megan.
Yeah,
because like we've never had consistent,
right,
connection.
right.
And she, if I get like a couple of beefy texts from her, I'm like, I gotta, because if I'm 10 seconds late, she could be gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, is that like you can say what you need to say, and then when they have the opportunity, they can respond.
I
and
feel
it's
like
not like like trying to find a time to both like talk on the phone or
right.
FaceTime.
It's interesting. I feel like Jess is probably always kind of leading the charge, and Tiff she wants to keep up but can't.
Tiff is a weekend warrior polar.
Okay.
She's like really solid on the weekend. I told her that the other day. I was like, you're really good from like Saturday to Tuesday, and then we just don't hear from her.
Right. And then I've heard Megan, use the phrase evening time when I'm catching up on polos or whatever.
Yeah.
I've heard her say like I'm 37 behind. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. So that was probably when she had like gone out of town or something, but she is pretty consistent with her polo times. It's either like right before bed, or like or very early in the morning when everybody else is still asleep.
Yeah. I can't stand the worst part about the editing process is looking at my dumb face and hearing my dumb voice for 3 hours, whatever,
Right.
But that was like, oh Jesus, and if the kids have there's a cell phone over at Anna's, and if they need anything ever, straight to FaceTime. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to see my unexpected. Now I'm just looking at myself. Like, come on. They're like, what? We get to see each other. I'm like, I have to see me to see you. So I don't love you that much.
Yeah. So that was the part I had to push through, and then once I did, I was glad I did.
So you love it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so much so that like I switched over to a new phone carrier, and it's pretty cheap, but like I'm used to having unlimited data, and now I don't.
Oh.
And so I'm like very conscious of like polo data.
Why not?
I switched to Mint Mobile, and
I'm sorry, Mint?
yeah, it's Ryan Reynolds owns it, and
Oh,
it's like
right.
they use the T-Mobile network.
Okay.
I sound like I'm
Spokesperson?
pitching it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm sponsored this.
For 30 days,
Yeah.
you can.
I do have that if you want it. But it's like $15 a month.
What?
Yeah. And it uses the same network. I was already T-Mobile, so I'm using the same network. I'm getting the same service. And it's $15 a month for 4 gigs. And I think I would be totally fine with that if I didn't polo or listen to polos outside the house, when I'm not on the
right.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Right.
So, but anyway, if I have to go up $5 or whatever, because it's like $20 for 10 gigs of data. So
How?
I don't know, but it's.
Is this like one of these deals where you're like, I wonder if we look into what it really costs.
Yeah.
Could we come up with
like a cheap alternative?
Or it's like Louis C.K. started putting on his own hour specials.
Mm-hmm.
He puts 100% of the money and manages the whole thing, and nobody says anything because it's his thing, and then he will charge you $5,
right?
As opposed to
like 150 or something.
Well, not to go see him live.
Oh, to see him live, I got
but
you.
To watch it,
like to stream it.
Yeah, and it's just like still making money.
Yeah. So I suspect it's one of those situations, and I was like kind of hesitant at first. But my family's all switched over, and they've been on it for like over a year.
Oh.
And so at first I was like, well, I had like technically an employee plan through Sprint from an old roommate. So I thought I had this really good deal. But my phone bill was still close to $100 or something. So, but they've all been on it for a while now, and they have not had any issues. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are rolling up on 3 hours. I thought we'd be able to get through this a little bit quicker than that, but
well, you know me, I'm very chatty.
Right,
yep.
Chatty Cathy,
yep.
Bong hits and car bombs, and
that's me.
just all day, every day.
I actually did do quite a few car bombs. But no, not car bombs.
Jaeger bombs.
Jaeger bombs.
In Kennedy's days?
Yeah. And then like throwing a grape bomb in there
absolutely.
with Jessica.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
When Bryce finally came, he was like, so we'll be like 3 grape bombs deep before we start. I was like, we will not, sir, at 2:00 in the afternoon. And then he showed up with his kid, and I realized he was completely kidding.
Yeah.
But he had a couple, he can put down a beer quick.
Yeah.
But man, I just can't even. Obviously, it's just age and body stuff. But I mean, just so much, just direct damage. Over the course of a night, and then another night, and then another night, and then the next day, just. Okay, yeah. Just.
I mean, do you get hungover? I feel like your sisters don't.
I think.
I'll say something about a hangover, and they'll look like.
I think there's more to it than that.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Like it doesn't take much for me to be down for the count for 3 days.
Yeah.
And everything is my mood, my appetite,
correct,
my sleep,
yep,
my joints,
right,
will like the creak, like
motivation,
Tin Man,
yeah,
it's just a bad thing, and I can't believe. I mean,
Megan does get hangovers sometimes. She'll talk about it, but I feel like Tiff and Jess are just like rocking and rolling the next day.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've thought for some time that they were exactly behind me in what hangovers would feel like in terms of age.
Right.
So if in 3 years from now, Tiff will be experiencing exactly what but nope, they just keep, opening up that next door and plowing through it. And I'm like, okay, man, sure.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where they've said things on Polo where they're like, I just don't feel well today. And I'm like, 'cause you're hungover.
Yeah. I think they both do a decent job hydrating and a decent job getting meals in. I'm not sure.
For the most part. I think, yeah, that is key.
But yeah, I mean, I would love to leave it 100% behind. And it's, I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But it's, 15, it's like, like sitting next to that girl in math class. It's like, what are the things that I need to do and it's like, I need to like pound 12 beers every time I go out and smoke Camel Lights and dress a certain way and talk. I mean, I got to do those things or acceptance doesn't happen. And then, 40 years later, I'm why have because you haven't changed any of those behaviors. It's still just like looking for the field party and hey, you got to change the wiring.
Yeah.
But we'll get there one day.
Yeah.
But thank you so much
for
coming. What do you got on store for the evening?
I don't have any like official plans. I do want to watch the KU game at 7.
Okay. Who do we got
Kentucky.
tonight? We're in a tough sledding right now.
Kind of a slump, yeah.
But that's okay.
We'll get out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right.
Bye. You have official sign up.